September 24th, 2020 meeting of the Town of Southampton Planning Board in accordance with the Governor's Executive Order 202.1 and until further notice. All of the board's meetings will be held remotely via video conference, so we ask the public to continually check the town's website for updates and new information. Phil, could we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Chair LaFaro.
Present.
Vice Chair Finnerty, I don't see yet. Secretary is here. Board Member Long.
Present.
Board Member Burke.
Present.
Board Member Zuccarelli.
Present.
Board Member Blaney.
Present.
We have 6 of 7 so far.
Okay. Can we join in for the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yep.
I pledge
Pledge
allegiance
To the
to the flag
Of
of the United States of America
and
and to the republic for which it stands,
one
one nation, under God,
indivisible,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Phil, do you have some minutes there?
We do. We have the minutes of August 13th.
August 13th. Motion to accept them?
motion.
Motion by Zuccarelli, second by Robin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 6 in favor, 1 absent.
Infinity's
Oh,
here.
is Janice here? Dennis is here. Hi, Dennis.
Hi.
Chair can note that Dennis is here. Did someone text Janice? Why don't we then just go into, we're moving Janice to the first, so let's move into Anthony, the completeness on number 1, George Hastings.
Sure. Okay. All right, you see the aerial, right?
No.
Good.
Oh, now we can, there we go.
There you go. Okay, so this is an application for a 3-lot subdivision. This is at the corner of Hastings Lane and Old Riverhead Road in Hampton Bays. It's got an existing residence on there, some other structures. A lot of these have actually probably been removed. We did a pre-app on this for a 3-lot subdivision, 1 lot in the back here, and then 2 lots in the front. This lot would have the existing residence, a new residence here, and then a new residence here. We identified some issues in the pre-app report, a slope analysis for this piece, which I did get yesterday. Some other recommendations regarding common driveway, some other stuff that we put in the pre-app report. The applicant hasn't submitted that information yet. It's still pending. So I was going to recommend that we deem the application incomplete. In addition, I had put together a checklist, and there were a few items. Again, compliance with the pre-app report was one of the issues. And then a few minor mapping issues, the ownership of the road, the water main sizes. So just a few minor items, but the big thing was that they didn't address all the items in the pre-app. So I'm recommending deeming it incomplete at this time.
Okay. Motion to deem it incomplete?
Motion.
Motion by, I don't know who that is.
Blaney.
Dennis? Blaney.
Blaney.
Blaney, motion by Dennis, second by Dennis.
And Janice is here.
Motion by Blaney, second by Dennis. All in favor?
You miss me so much.
Abstentions? All right. 7 in favor.
You need your
Hi,
coffee there,
Janice, how are
Becky.
you?
Sorry, I was muted. Hi, how are you?
Hi, you're
Hi,
on,
everybody.
Janice.
Nice to see you.
Welcome. It's nice to see you.
Thank you. Thanks. Nice to
Where
meet you.
are you with all those empty boxes behind you?
Oh, well, because we're moving out of our space next. So
Oh,
we're
good.
packing up our office to move.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Good.
We're,
Good. Okay, it's all yours,
so
Janice.
this work session is just about, we've get an overwhelming amount of clearing and over clearing, I guess, or site disturbance situation. I'm sorry, I'm just shut this door.
Overclearing.
Over clearing where you do a revegetation plan, and it's my understanding that they don't get accomplished within a reasonable time frame. So in looking at it, and I asked Matt, who's on here also, to take a look, and all the ones he had, because he's mostly handling them fairly often. And he said that the average is at least 400 days that it takes someone to put the vegetation in that they cleared, if at all. And then he writes, and Matt can speak for this, and he writes letters following up, and we're just not seeing the compliance. So my ask to the planning board is, when you do approve these revegetation plans, if you could put a deadline, you know, like you have a year to do it, and maybe a 6-month extension or a year extension, you know, some extension period that's reasonable. And after that, you have to reapply, you know, because this languishes on and there's really no way we get any compliance. So we're missing out. People are just, I think there's other problems with the APOD code, but right now, just in terms of revegetation, that would help and go a long way. Just adding that simple condition.
How do we handle seasonality? You
Yes, and that's what we have, a year. So say it's right now, October, you'd have till the following October, and then you can also get another 6 months on top of that extension. So it's a year and a half to get your plant stock and to get it put in. And I think that's reasonable.
Maybe too much. Dennis, you had your hand
Might
up?
be too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The majority of overclearing, I think all of the ones that come to our board are in conjunction with the C of O. And I'm guessing what's happening, are they releasing C of Os before the planting is done?
No, Dennis, I can speak to that. They're not. People, I guess, are just not closing out. It's just taking that long, or they're not even, they're submitting and maybe getting a building permit and then never closing out the building permit, and they extend and extend and extend, but they never actually close out their building permits.
Yeah,
Okay, that's probably a larger issue. You know, the building permit, I think a lot of it's tied into the building permit.
But wait a minute, there's, Dennis, if I may, there is,
Yeah.
I think, 2 different times that the overclearing, Janice, correct me if I'm wrong, 2 different times that the overclearing comes to our knowledge. First, it could be with an initial new build where there's overclearing and they're going for the initial C of O. Then there is overclearing that comes to our attention as a result of updated C of Os, which are being issued and examined at the time of transference, sales of these properties. So somebody goes to sell their house, the buyer asks for an updated C of O, gets a new survey, it shows the overclearing. When they file for the updated C of O, that's when planning picks it up, that it's overcleared, and there is a system for now issuing the updated C of O, depending on what has to be re-vegged to issue the updated C of O. So you've got it triggered, and Janice, you can correct me if I'm wrong, you've got it triggered by 2 separate issues. It's easier to control the situation where it's a new construction because you can hold up the issuance of the C of O. But where there already is a C of O, unless somebody from the buyer or somebody from a title company or somebody from somewhere says, wait a minute, I'm not purchasing this with this overclearing, that's where I don't know how you're going to do that timing, because you can't hold up these transactions for a year to a year and a half for the vegetation to
You don't
take.
have to, Rob.
Yeah.
They shouldn't be issuing they shouldn't be updating the C of O. That's the issue. They shouldn't. I mean, there's no overclearing, the C of O update, you don't get it until you
We're
come.
not saying that they can get the transfer, and we're not holding up the update. You're approving a revegetation plan and hoping that it's going to be done, and they have a certain. And I'm saying you have to have a time frame in which it's completed.
But
See,
Robin is saying
they're issuing the updated C of O without on the vegetation plan.
Right.
that's the problem.
The problem.
You have to get a hold of building, and everything's got to come to a stop.
I
Whether
don't,
it's a building permit, whether it's a C of O, or whether it's an update C of O.
yeah, if I
And
could
they're
speak.
handing out permits after, oh, they got their re-veg plan approved. Okay, here's your C of O.
Yeah, like the re-veg plan is enough to justify an
no.
action.
That's-
and
that's
therefore
your problem.
not. Yeah.
Well, that-
Is that
true, Matt, though?
No,
Matt, is that true?
if you let me jump in for a second,
Yes.
they're not issuing any COs until after it's installed and inspected by us. People are generally just
Yeah.
never closing out. It's just taking
Okay,
a
well,
long time, so they're
They
never,
already
they
have a-
they come,
Right?
yeah, they already have a CO, or they're waiting for a CC for a new improvement to the house, a certificate of compliance. So they come, they do the improvements, and then they get an approved revegetation plan, and then they never close out their building permits. It
That's
just
an enforcement
languishes,
action.
it's open.
That's an enforcement action.
I
You
am,
have to beef up the enforcement in the building department.
not
They
the-
don't close out,
Robin,
they
what
don't
was that?
remove permits.
You're saying that's not the case, Robin?
I know, a lot of the ones that I have closed, okay, they're closing, the buildings department is issuing updated C of Os based on vegetation plans.
That's been
Okay.
my understanding also, but Matt's
Correct.
saying, like, the reason why they don't close out they're issuing the permit. I
They're
don't
issuing
know.
the permit, yeah.
They
But
issue
they're
the permit,
issuing
but they're not
the
closing it
updated-
out.
I have updated C of Os based on vegetation plans.
But not in the ground. That's the
Okay.
plan.
Yeah, that's the first word,
So
that's the
let's
first
check
we're
on
hearing of
that.
it, yeah.
So we have
Let's
to
check on
research
that.
how that goes. And
Yeah.
those are simple things we could fix, but the real, and there's a few other things, because, you know, just in parallel to this, if someone is planning on disturbing a site who already has a CO, it's not this, like, it's easier when it is, like you said, a new build, a subdivision, or a commercial site plan. But when they already have a CO,
Mhm.
get an updated CO, and then the new person, everything is fine. The new person moves in, clears the lot. They are supposed to have 50% and they clear it all. First of all, if we find out about it, second of all, we're not getting like a site disturbance plan before anybody clears anything. They just, oops, sorry. And then,
Didn't know, right?
you know, and we can't revoke their CO at that point. Like you know, they've already have one. So that's a different issue though. I'm saying when you do review a revegetation plan and site disturbance plan, you know, just I think the timeframes and letting it, you know, expire, then they have to come back. I mean, it just puts a little fire under someone to get it
Yeah.
done. That's really what we're out for.
Yes, they languish for a long time.
And then they don't respond.
Yeah.
And especially if they were getting a CO at pond transfer, then there's no impetus to ever finish it.
Just make sure, Janice, that C of Os, I mean, you have the conduit to the building department, that C of Os or building permits are not issued until the planting has been
Done.
installed
Yeah.
and inspected.
Right.
Yeah, and I
That's a
agree.
motivating factor for them to say, we got to get this done.
Yeah, we, I don't know if I haven't run across any building inspectors that have been issuing them. We'll look into it more. But I do, since I've been here in 2017, we've got 98 re-veg applications. I've done 44 of them.
Wow.
26 have been closed out and 22 are just hanging out there in the ether. Either they've submitted an application, they submitted a fee, but, you know, gave us a survey and no plan, and we asked for a plan and they just disappear into the wind. Or they do the right thing and they come in and they have a plan and they get the plan approved, but they never install the approved plan because there's no deadline. Like you said, it might be a CO upon transfer, or they do the improvements to their property and then they just don't close it out until they feel that they need to. So we don't have that extra hook.
Yeah.
They
Well,
just languish forever.
The hook might have to come with legislation with a fine. You
Yes.
know, unless,
Well, we have that now.
but we don't with vegetation, do we? No.
No, it's
So
just,
if they're occupying, if they don't close out a C of O, it's an enforcement action, correct?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody's forced to get a C of O, are they, Robin?
Yes.
Like,
Well,
they
You can't have an open
permit-
permit. You can't have it.
But the
Dennis,
CO is
again-
not always hanging in the balance, is what we're saying.
It could
And
be a
the CO
CC.
may have
It could be
already
a
been issued. And
Yeah,
then
it
we
could be a
have nothing.
CC. It could be a CC for a certificate of compliance for like a pool, for a tennis court. It could
There you
be
go.
There's
minor
a
stuff.
difference
When
between
they-
in the practicality, in the real world, okay? I come across where my clients are buying property and I will find an open permit from 10 years ago that's never been closed.
Correct.
Open permits can sit out there and languish. That means that the work could have been done and never re-inspected to close it properly, or the work was never done, somebody applied and changed their mind. We don't know these things until a title search is done on a property, and then we find the open permit.
Right.
So if there is no automatic process where someone opens a permit and they must close it within a reasonable amount of time, either by taking an action or not taking an action. A lot of times the permits just sit there and languish.
Right, well, all of this is pointing to the building department in
Well,
terms of
I
tightening up
think
their,
maybe
their
a
mechanism.
year that lines up with a building permit would be really appropriate. Because a building permit's valid for a year, as Janice is suggesting. And then if the year goes by, which Matt will track and be like, okay, guys, your permit's up.
Yeah.
you
I mean,
know.
or if whenever the approval date of the plan is, because that's also easy for me to track. That's what I usually do.
Right, exactly. So it's a year, and they might, if they have a good reason, they're not done with their building or whatever. So sometimes that happens. Then a half a year, which all lines up with a building permit. So it's just another way to track it, because as Robin says, these things can be 10 years old sometimes.
Isn't that a process challenge? We're looking at just one small piece of it. I mean, if there's all these applications out there and nobody is checking to see, well, why weren't they closed?
We are tracking them. Matt is tracking them. We are, as planners, are tracking them, but there's no repercussions.
Well,
But if you put a repercussion that, hey, after a year, you're going to have to either come back for an extension, and if you do, that's it. Because if you take more than a year and a half, come back with another fee.
And now they're back in front of you, and you can question them and be like, what are you waiting for?
What have you been doing? Yes.
Or, you know, and if it's a site disturbance plan, it's one fee, but we put in the budget that if it's a site revegetation plan where they did it an illegal or, unauthorized clearing, then that's double the fine. That's double the fee.
Is there any
So
chance?
there's some monetary, pain there too.
Is there a possibility? The point is that we have no leverage, but if we have their money, we have leverage. So when they have to revegetate, they have to give us money for an escrow account, and it has to be done in a year or they lose the money.
I think
That is a performance bond. They turn out to kind of
Performance
be
bond?
nightmares because then we have to go do it. If
We've done it once, and we're still holding it 16 years later.
Right, that's so the town shies away, John, from performance bonds because it means that the end of the line, if it hasn't been done, the town needs to do it, and they don't want to do that.
Well, the answer to that is you make
But that's a good, I mean, we're
What's the
getting there.
price-
These are all good
the
thoughts.
price of what they would have done it on their own. In other words, that has to be passed by the board. But any performance bond on revegetation is twice the value. So now we want them to move on it. And that's the problem we're having. There's no incentive for them to do it.
There's no condition. There's
I'll
no
give you a
approval
hint.
condition. My point is there's no condition in your approval that requires it
Oh,
to be done within a
Agreed.
certain time period.
Right, so if you make that a condition, and that condition is not satisfied, then they can be issued a violation for not satisfying that condition.
Correct.
And who tracks all of that, though? Is there
We
something that pops up on the computer that says, hey?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we do, Jackie. It's all in my computer. It's on anybody who has the application. We track the
Oh, it's a
dates.
special thing.
So may I just ask, so you are able to track new permit applications for new builds where there's overclearing, where there is applications for updated C of Os? Those are getting grabbed also where there's?
We won't necessarily see those. We're going to see them if they're related to clearing. So basically what will happen is someone, either an individual or their expert or whomever is applying for a permit. They're going in with surveys to the building department and saying, I want to do this. And then it's on the building inspector to say, okay, however, you're overcleared. You need to go speak to planning and address that prior to either releasing the permit or closing out the permit. So then that's the trigger. Basically it's word of mouth from the building inspector to come to us and address the
Is
clearing.
it flagged on for the building inspector to know that area is in an APOD? And
Absolutely. There's a layer on GIS and they're aware of it. It's in the code. It's by code, it has to be on the survey.
Okay, the third question, I'm sorry, the third area that I was, oh, I just lost my, I went to be respectful and I lost my
Okay.
train of thought. I'll come back to it. Go ahead.
So I have a question that we're confronted with all the time. Jackie, weigh in on this. We have subdivisions, right? Consistently, certain contractors wreck the vegetation. We actually were so put out with one that we had him come in and address the planning board. Why is this happening? Well, these are very constricted sites, you know, and they have to get into the front yard, and so they clear away the trees. This is the argument that they use with us, which, you know, you can understand it, but we're not, I don't think we're being creative enough in these subdivisions to allow for construction mechanisms, trucks, evacuators to go in and not destroy the land. I don't know what the answer is, but we've had so much of this, right, Jackie? We've had 2 large subdivisions where
Yep.
every house that was sold was overcleared.
Well, I think part of the issue is when we do these subdivisions where we come in with smaller lots to save other land from being built on, which is a good thing. And then we can adjust the building envelope because that we have the control to do that. But when you adjust the building envelope and you make it larger, you literally forcing over clearing for them to get all the things needed to be able to build the house and the pool and with the tennis court.
Well, the smaller lots are governed by the APOD. So as lots get smaller, you can actually clear a greater percentage of them.
I
That's
realize.
another thing we should probably revisit with the town board, and that's been an argument for a long time, is that it's not entirely equitable or fair, because you get to that 60,001 and then you're down from 50% to 35%, and it's a big jump just for like a tenth of a, you know.
Well, that's a legislative.
It's like
Yeah.
yeah, and I'm saying that's a different
And
story, but there are more issues to this than you know.
So you're asking really for a first step.
Yes.
First step
So
is
that-
just the condition of when you do approve these things, put a time frame on it, because then we can say you're not in compliance with your condition. Then we should also look at other, you know, legislative remedies. And I have discussed this with the building department, where the inspectors will be, and all the conditions of approval should always require the limit of clearing fences, right? So they're there,
Yeah.
and the inspector can easily see them. So they're constantly going to the house for inspections. They can see that, you know, someone drove over the fence and cleared out all this, you know, vegetation. So they know they need to do that. And that's another, you know,
But the permits don't.
inspector responsibility, you know?
The permits in the APOD do not require that project limiting fence like they do in the wetlands. I think.
Let's do that
And I
then.
think an easy remedy is you've seen those temporary fences, you get them in Home
Great
Depot,
idea.
they're orange roll, they go really easily. And prior to the issuance of the building permit, the limits of disturbance shall be marked by project limiting fence and notated on the survey. And that bright orange, every time the inspector drives up to that site, he can see whether that, and you know, that the fence is intact, and if the integrity has been breached, he can stop the job right away before it gets to you know, to the end.
Yeah,
And
Dennis,
that's
if I could,
something we can implement in our new maps by covenant, but it's something the legislators might want to think about.
Right.
and I thought maybe, go ahead. Jackie, and speaking to subdivisions before, maybe it's something to consider similar to on a site plan, if there's some kind of, you know, overall disturbance plan for the entire site plan at the time of approval for these that are going to have clearing restrictions.
Good idea. Absolutely.
Yeah, because, you know, we want to, a lot of times people don't want to come back because they just want to clear it and keep it that way. And that's not the point.
Or as history has proved, you know, where there's over clearing, like because they put a tennis court in, okay? So what they do is when the inspector comes, they roll out green turf on the over cleared area, and it looks like it's okay. Then the inspector leaves and they unroll the grass. A lot of ways to skin a cat.
Is it AstroTurf?
Yes.
Is there also, I know that certain even APOD sites are grandfathered in prior. Are those, that sometimes becomes an issue. Is there a way of marking that in the GEIS if it is grandfathered to a different level?
Yeah,
than
what
the
happens,
POD?
They
we
come
get
back.
these lots that were approved between 84 and 89,
Correct.
Right.
and they have more, we got to number them in for, they're covenant modifications.
No,
Yeah.
no. There's also some
Yeah.
that are grandfathered in where they can overclear. And then they get a
Cleared
letter.
Oh, overclear, oh.
Yeah, if I can,
Well-
Robin, generally they'll go to Dennis and get the interpretation. The only thing I could see that there's also a provision in the code that says after a period of 20 years, if it's been allowed to revegetate, then the standards do apply. So, I mean, technically speaking, someone could be grandfathered in at one point, but then if they own the property and it revegetated to be within the limits that were allowed by APOD, then they would have to abide by the clearing restrictions. I mean, I don't know how often something like that would happen, but it's possible. Yeah.
Overclearing has become I mean, I know it's come very popular for you guys, but it's for the real estate
Yeah.
attorneys.
Yeah.
Overclearing has become a big issue now.
It's huge and it's constant. I mean, everybody is calling and complaining about
Yeah.
this one's overclearing, that one, so we really need to get a grip on this and just understand where our problems lie and also what's reasonable and what's not, you know. So if someone is revegetating and you're satisfied with that plan, then it's their responsibility to carry it out in a timely fashion. That's
Yeah.
really
Well,
my
maybe let's look at the time frame. Maybe we don't want to say 1 year with 6 months, Trina, because they will take the whole time, believe me. Maybe we want to say 1 planting season with an extension. I don't know how that wording should be.
Yeah.
Matthew,
I'd like to hold them as accountable as possible, Jackie. The only
Right.
issue that I see is there's supply issues. If we're approving them in January, if we're approving them in a drought, it happens. I don't think a year is too unreasonable. And at least we have a mechanism to get them back in the door to say, what have you been doing?
And the wording can be, please plant as soon as possible.
Yeah.
You
But
know,
we have
within the
planting
next
season. I
growing
mean-
season, but you have until this date.
As long
planting
as they-
seasons start typically in what, March, April, right?
Or October.
October, yeah. Generally not in the summer, in the fall, in the spring or in the fall.
So we have 2 planting seasons, and I think that if we just say a whole year, you know, if they miss 1 planting season, I got to get the second one, but then that's it.
Also remember,
Most of
Jackie,
these people are motivated to, if they're going for a building permit and they know they cannot get their C of O or C of C without doing it, there is that motivation also.
Well, that's what
If-
Dennis is going back, what he said. It goes back to the C of O, goes back to that.
see
Or
about,
the updated C
Yeah.
of O to do the transference of property. If you want to sell your house, you
Yeah.
have to re-veg,
Yeah,
and you can hold that.
hold,
You're
they've
not
got
getting your
hold.
C of C or your updated C of O pursuant to your contract
so it's C of
until
O.
it's done. So I think that also will give some motivation.
So if you can write language for us along those lines.
Sure, I'll send it to you. I mean, it's really up to you as you do these plans, what you want to include as a condition of approval.
Well, I think it should be a condition of approval because we spend, first of all, more time on revegetation plans that have to be inspected, drawn up, bonded, and then brought to the planning board and put on the agenda. So if you write some language for us, we'll put it in for a condition of approval. Don't you think?
Great.
Everybody on the board agree with that?
And obviously, if there's some special circumstances that would come out in an applicant's, testimony, if there's some reason or some other appeal to you as to the time frame, that's up to you.
Or they
But
can't
a
get the
general
stuff?
time frame would be, first of all, add a time frame. Second of all, add, something that's reasonable. And when they come back, they could be afforded an extension if that's warranted and there's some merit to that. And then at some point it expires. And you got to do it all over again. That's motivation enough, because now you got to pay a new fee and get on the agenda and do this all over again, which is, I don't know who wants.
I would think if you don't get it into the spring planting season, you got to get it into the fall planting season. If you miss both, then you got to come back to the planning board or come back to.
What happens a lot, Jackie, remember, is sometimes these things are flagged prior to construction, and they ask us to withhold, to allow them to plant once the majority of the construction is done.
Yes, that's what happens on a lot of Jackie's applications on these.
Some of them, not all of them. A lot of them you catch at the end when it's C of O time, but some of them it's building permit time.
Right,
They apply for a tennis court and oh, they're over cleared. So
Yeah.
they want to be able to put the court in and then before they close it out.
Oh, they wreck all the front yards because that's how they brought the equipment in, because there's no room for them to bring anything else in.
Well, that's the other part of this is really being able to, you don't really want to review revegetation plans. You really want to review site disturbance plans, which is in advance of that. And I see John rolling his eyes, but it's true.
Part of this conversation.
Not part of this conversation.
We would like to know in advance what the plan is and, you know, account for the unforeseen, but it's true that it would be nice to review it in advance. A site disturbance plan, which is in the APOD law, more so than a revegetation plan, which seems to be the modus operandi nowadays. It's do it first, come back in and say, sorry, now approve my plan, and I don't know when I'm ever going to actually do it either. Which is, you know, not that's a huge generalization, but you know what I mean. Like, that's why I'm here,
Yes, of
asking for
course.
something to change.
And that's why
That's where I
Matthew
was coming
searched
from.
78 applications for overclearing, you know? That's
So,
a lot.
you know, it would be better if we could make it a little more painless in the first place to submit it, you know, some kind of if you really do need a little bit of area, I would rather see all the mature trees stay and give some flexibility on an APOD, you know, percentage versus have someone clear cut it and then come back and have to put new plants all together. You know,
We get
that
a lot of resistance when we ask for, Jackie, a tree inventory, or please mark the substantial trees. A lot of pushback on that. And
well, that's up to you, and that's the most important part, you know. So
I just wanted to say, I think a year is very reasonable. Like we've been discussing, that's 2 growing seasons, ideal spring or fall. I think that's very fair. Whether it's January, July, you still are going to see those. It's a very easy time frame to track. When we can set a calendar and the next year, we're like, we approve this, what's going on? They can come back in. They're going to pay an extension fee possibly, or fee for you guys to hear the situation. But a lot of these are tied to building permits, and some of these projects do, you know, if it's a house or, you know, a large renovation, they do take a while. So they generally want to put the revegetation in afterwards. I do have experience too on the 2 subdivisions. They're maxing out their building envelope. So there is like hardly any wiggle room for error. Errors are made by different various contractors. They have to be responsible for that. I think legislatively though, the orange construction fence, if we do it by covenant or by an amendment of the legislation, that's great, because unfortunately, when you're on a large machine and you're 10 or 12 feet in the air, you're not seeing the erosion control. So most of these sites do need erosion control, but it's that black sediment fence with wire backing. You don't see it, you roll over it as a big truck, you don't even feel it. At least with the orange, it's 4 feet tall, it's higher, you know, usually you're having a wood post or a metal post associated with that, not just like hay bales or small stakes. So I think that would be really beneficial as well. And in my cases, you know, these developers are definitely maxing out their building envelopes, but the 2 developments that you guys are speaking of, they did really, once they realized that, you know, these houses were being sold with maximum building envelopes, they did save the mature trees, but the understory just got demolished.
Yeah.
so one of the components would be that it's required to put up this orange, what's the language for it?
I think it's
Project limiting fence.
Project limiting fence. They have to do that around vegetation that's to be preserved. We give them a certain time period. And then what? Then they don't get a C of O, or how is this going to be? Permit or no C of O, or how is that going to work?
We have been working really closely with the building division, and they check with us. I have to admit, you know, they are really good when they're aware of it, and the specific building inspectors, they check with us, you know, and generally that means I contact the applicant and I'm like, are you ready for your inspection? And, you know, they say, oh, we're almost done, or, you know, not yet, give us this weekend, we'll have it done by next week. So we do work really closely with the building division. You know, things definitely, you know, fall through the cracks sometimes, but you're right. If that fencing delineates the site disturbance line, rather than it just being in the woods somewhere and they're just having erosion control where they need it, it will be a visual, you know.
Okay, so that's a help. That's one thing.
the fence and the time frame is really all we're asking for right now, and then we'll
Time
delve into
frame.
the equity of the, you know,
Permit and
percentages
CFO.
and all that stuff, which is another for another time.
Permit and C of O, but you know, if you want really teeth in it, it's going to be a situation where you have to really pin it to something they need so that there's compliance otherwise.
Which is usually building permit or C of O or
Building permit
CT.
C of O, right.
Yep.
But that probably required, John, I'm sorry, you can't be in the conversation.
I'm trying to say something very helpful.
Well,
You can write it, John. Send us an email.
right in the chat.
I tried, the chat's not open.
No, send us an email. There's no decision today.
Yeah,
No,
this is a conversation with the planning board.
You should, I know you should just require a new CEO on every transfer. It takes care of 90% of the issues. All the villages do it. I'm tearing my hair out. It's self-enforcing. You can charge a fee. You hire a new building inspector every time somebody transfers a piece of property.
A new C of O.
You need a new CO in the name of the purchaser. The village has been doing it for 30 years. It
John,
works.
actually, what we're talking about is the situation where someone puts a tennis court in and owns it for 10 years and never close out the tennis court. That's what we're actually talking about.
No, but 90%
No,
of
that's
it.
okay. I'm sorry, I just can't. So,
All right, just trying to help.
Yeah, well,
If
listen,
I may, the town board,
idea.
if I may,
Yes.
really quick, the town board
Yeah.
did consider that. There was legislation proposed a few years ago. There was not support for it.
Not support on the
Most banks
board.
require it. And a lot
Well,
of
maybe
times-
they should put it in.
I spoke in favor of it.
Yeah.
I appreciate that, but the
Yeah.
town board did
Different
not
time
vote
and
in
a different
favor of
board,
it.
and we may be able to bring it back up again, but you may be asked for a recommendation in that sense, so we'll bring it to you for your consideration.
Different board, and you now have substantial findings. You have all of this research that Matt's done in terms of land that has been overcleared, that's not going to have that growth again. You know, it'll have landscaped plantings, but did you get enough from us?
And I appreciate it. So basically, it's on you. If you could, when you review these things,
Yeah, but give us some language and we'll impose it as a condition.
thank you.
Right.
And then I just have one other item. I have an item on the agenda, item number 7.
What is that, Janice?
Well, I know you don't like to skip around, but then I can.
Canal properties, yeah. Go ahead, yeah.
To recommend the town board accept the maintenance bond for the phase 1, which is the first 3 buildings of the canal properties. They're completed 1 building, they have 2 more, but all the landscaping has been installed and inspected as in good health. And the amount of the bond is $61,182.67.
They planted giants.
To the penny. Sure, we can vote on that. Who will move it? Someone want to move that bond? Phil, seconded by Robin, all in favor?
Aye.
7 in favor. Okay, you've got number 7 done, actually. It's
Thank you so
7.
much. And it's so good to see you all.
Good to see you too, Janice. Let us have the language
You
that
will.
you write when you work it out with
I will.
Kathleen.
I'll follow up with an email to you all. Thank you.
Okay,
Bye.
bye. Okay, so we did number 1. I mean, we did Janice, we did George Hastings. Anthony, are you around?
Yep,
Yes.
I'm here.
Kamakudiko?
So this was the 11 lot subdivision up here. This is North Sea Mecox Road and then the private road up here. We have a conditional final approval, 11 lots on this property with open space in the middle and then 3 affordable units off-site. They're asking for their 5th extension for submission of the final maps and all the legal documents for approval. My understanding is they're still working with the health department in bringing in the water main here. So that's what they've indicated. So they've asked for another extension, which would bring it from September 13th, 2020 to December 12th, 2020.
Okay, any discussion? Phil, you're all right with that?
Well, Yeah, I mean,
What are you, Phil? What is this? Who cares if you're all right?
Extension, Maven.
well,
no,
if it's health department, we all know the
Yes.
problems
Yeah.
involved with the health department. But if they want a 6th extension, I'm going to, I mean, it's up to you guys too, but I would want them to come in and give us an update.
Okay, it's fair enough, I think.
Okay.
Do you want to move it, Phil?
I'll move it.
Moved by Phil, seconded by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Matt, you have Toplands. It's an extension for a year.
Yeah, this is a 1-year extension of the pre-application report. Can everybody see the screen?
Yep.
This is a 2-lot subdivision in East Quogue at 136 and 138 Old Country Road. If you remember, I'll just pull up the map for you. The road fronting lot with an existing house, a lot in the back. They're just requesting an extension. They are also stuck at the health department. So this will take us to September 26th of 2021.
Yeah, this
is a whole year?
Yeah.
This is a year because it's a pre-application report. That's how they're extended. They're extended on a yearly basis because they're good for a year.
Okay, there's no date on the agenda here. What's the dates?
It's in the resolution. It's to September 26th of 2021.
Yeah.
2021.
Yeah, I have a question mark that the date was 9/26/20.
That's what, yeah, it's 2021 is when it's good to. It's approved, so it's good for a year. It can only get extended for a maximum of 2 years from the original adoption date. If you're calling on other pre-applications, then you can waive the policy if you need to, but they're still within that initial 2 years that it can be approved to.
Okay, good. So a motion on this?
Motion.
Motion by Phil, second by Zuccarelli. All in favor?
All right.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Old Stables at Spionk is next, and that's company.
Southampton Volunteer Ambulance, number 4.
I have Old Stables at Spionk.
That's what I have too.
Because my agenda has, that's weird.
I don't even have the fire department on here.
Yeah.
We don't even have that.
Maybe it was added after the original agenda sent out. I don't know what it's sent out, but it's on the final agenda. It'll be 2 seconds. And then I have Old Stables. We did an approval for the Southampton Volunteer Ambulance back in February for a new building with associated parking. They're working out the plans. The town's got to go out to bid. So what I did for this one was a 2-day 90-day extension period because they need the time to work out all the engineering details. And I just had a meeting with them and the town engineer. So basically it would give them from July 9th, it's retroactive this year, until January 5th of 2021 to get us the final maps for signature.
What are you counting in the COVID date?
I did actually, and I'm glad that you said that because I wrote a note here, Jackie, to add it to my resolution. The COVID dates. So I'll make sure I add that to the resolution.
Okay. So that's a 90-day extension.
2 90-day extensions.
2 90-day extensions.
Yep, to January 5th, 2021.
Okay.
Motion.
Motion by Phil, second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Now, I don't know what number we're up to. Is Old Stable of Spionk?
Yeah, that's what I have next. So
That's 6 or what?
I have it as 5.
5.
That means all the numbers are
I
wrong.
have it as 4, and there was nothing in my packet.
There was nothing attached to it. I'm going to show. I just lost connection. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I can hear you, yeah.
1 second.
Here we got.
You're back.
You're back, but
Okay, just give me 1 second.
Just hit the Zoom button.
I got it. Okay. So Old Stables at Spionk, the board will remember. It's been going on for a long time. This is the subdivision on North Phillips Avenue, the density incentive plan. It's a 6-lot yield. And they're doing 3 extra units per the density incentive for a total of 9, and with 3 affordable units and 25% open space. As it turns out, and it was something that I missed, and we just didn't see it when we were reviewing it, with other staff back in the day, but the density incentive provision of the code is only applicable in hamlets where the population density is less than 500 people per square mile. And based on the information that I received from Dave Wilcox, the Remsenburg-Spionk hamlet has a density higher than 500 people per square mile. I don't know what the numbers are going to be like for 2020, but I suspect they'll go up. The project was not eligible for a density incentive. We haven't done a preliminary approval. Preliminary approval typically sets the yield and the map. The yield stays the same. It is still 6. But unfortunately, we're not going to be able to get 3 affordable units. So what the applicant's going to do is revise the map. It's still going to have the open space, but there's going to be fewer units. It's going to be a 7-lot subdivision. One of them is going to be affordable because it has to be per the Long Island Workforce Housing Act, but it's not going to be a 9-lot subdivision. I think the neighbors, will likely be happy. They were concerned about the number of units and the number affordable, but unfortunately, it can't proceed that way. I've spoken to the applicant. They're happy to make the revision to the plan for a 7-lot. So that's what we're going to do. I just wanted to give the board an update. We are going to have a hearing on it. I'm going to have to do the referrals. The engineer's going to have to look at it. When the map comes in, we'll do that. In the meantime, I think what we should do is probably deem the preliminary application incomplete, in light of the new information until we get a new map that does conform to the requirements. I apologize for this happening, but I'm glad it didn't happen at the final stage and did it before we actually had an approval. So
This population requirement for affordability, is this a new amendment to the New York?
no, it's not. I don't know when it was in there. It's very deep in that section of the code, and it probably should be in the subdivision section too. But it was missed, or maybe Kyle did an analysis. Back in the day, maybe we just didn't look at it closely enough. But it's not a new amendment. It's in there, Jackie.
It's in there.
The town code.
Yeah.
Okay, so the action that we have now is to deem the
Preliminary application incomplete.
Incomplete. Okay.
Anthony, would that increase the open space area, or would it make the individual lots larger?
It would increase the lot sizes. The open space was the minimum that they were, consistent with what was required on this property, the minimum open space. So that won't change.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, motion to approve the incomplete on the preliminary by Glorian and second by Zuccarelli. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? Approved. The next one, which is 6, is 76 Montauk Highway, is off the agenda, Matthew.
Correct.
We still don't know what they want to talk about, right?
No, we've been over it. They, just whatever's required in the pre-submission conference report, as far as I've been told.
Okay.
There's a scheduling conflict, so they couldn't be here today.
Okay. Moving on to 7, 392 Mill Road. That's Jackie.
Yes. You guys can hear me? Hold on one second. I just want to share the screen. Okay, so I just wanted, is Rob Merrihew in the audience? Can he be brought in, Charles, please?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Who is this?
This is Robert Merrihew, who's the applicant's attorney for 392. And actually I have the maps prepared just so you guys can visualize.
Okay.
So I just wanted to update the board today because I was working with the applicant's engineer very closely in the spring during Corona, and we were working remotely, obviously. I had the pre-application report recommended a plan that eliminated a flag, and essentially we were looking at this plan. Let me just go down. We were looking at this plan at the pre-application, but because there's frontage onto Wayne Court, we asked them to remove the flag strip right here. So internally, and going over them with all the completeness issues and health department, et cetera, we asked them to revise the plan. So in May, I had signed off on the plan that they had provided. So this is like an early May, I think it's May 4th plan that I had reviewed with them for completeness. As you can see, lot 3 has the formal access from Wayne Court, and lot 2 is the only ones technically served by the flag strip with frontage to Mill Road. We are proposing, as per the pre-application report that was adopted, you asked for traffic analysis, which we reviewed. I reviewed it with Tom earlier on, and we're only adding one common driveway, so there'll only be one curb cut. And this lot, just so you are aware, did have the benefit of 3 existing houses with C of Os. So, 3 lots, it's really cleaning it up. They have since demolished the structures, which the planning board gave permission for. But what we're really trying to do is we're trying to have just one common driveway serve all 3 properties. In talking to them very much so over the time that we were working remotely, they had submitted the revised plans in June, and I put them on the agenda. Unfortunately, the plan that was submitted, either a miscommunication or an error when they printed maybe a previous plan, was that they submitted a plan with the 2 flag lots. So that was not really the one that I had went over with them in depth in May and early June. What happened was, so this got referred. Everyone who came up with this description, they were like, your description is slightly different than the map we're looking at. And I was like, oh, well, yeah. I was like, they're actually supposed to be doing this one. But they had some reservations because the health department did approve this one. So they're a little bit concerned that there may be a borderline issue or even like an easement issue with the health department, because they do have approval from the health department for this plan. Also during the March and April review, I did have hesitancy, and I have to admit, things were kind of crazy, obviously, that I had never seen an engineer prepare a final plan. But obviously, the dimensions, they're working off a survey, everything that they were designing was in accordance with the pre-application report. So it did go further. I got the plans, tried to get them on the agenda because obviously everyone's been delayed. But looking in the final conditional approval, and Claire was actually helping me review the town code, it does require that a final application be prepared by a licensed surveyor. So this engineer is not a licensed surveyor, although they've been working really closely with a licensed surveyor. So at this point, I'm asking them to bring in the final plat that mimics the one that the planning board requested in their pre-application report, which would look like this. So that needs to be done by the surveyor. Twin Forks Surveying is the one who's been working with them. So they are presently drawing up that plan. And because of that, we just need to have a common driveway plan reviewed by the engineering division that essentially matches up with the survey. So at this point, I was looking to move forward with final conditional approval, but now realizing they need a survey by a licensed certified and they do need to update the common driveway plan that we have presently in our records. So Tom and the assistant town engineer can review that, and it matches everything. I was speaking to the applicant, and they would like to consent to an extension of time so that way I can get the revised surveys, the revised common driveway, and essentially then after that, once I receive them, I'll re-refer them so everyone has the correct plan without that second flag strip.
What happens to Wayne? Can I ask you what happens to Wayne Court?
So Wayne Court, this is just a legal frontage. No one will actually be accessing it. Although we do have to work out the issue, and something needs to be done because which is a standard requirement of a subdivision, this encroachment of the driveway needs to be removed, but essentially there would be no access from Wayne Court for physical vehicular access in the future or construction access. So everything would be coming in to these properties via the common driveway.
Right, because at the public hearing, I remember, property owners. Yeah.
And, I'll make a note to do a covenant for no construction access
Mhm.
from Wayne Court. I know the neighborhood was, concerned with that.
Yeah.
From a planning perspective, though, I mean, Wayne Court is a nice town improved road. So, I mean, I wouldn't mind one driveway to one. But, at the end of the day, we're going to be dealing with one common driveway serving all 3 lots. It can be nice and clean. The applicant does have a little bit of reservation that if they go back with this plan to the health department, that it might delay matters. But I'm willing to work closely with the applicant's representative and
Okay.
Kathleen to make sure we review the common driveway easement and even the health department to make sure that we're all on the same page when
What
we
about
define the
water?
common driveway and
Is
have utilities.
Are there hydrants close by?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so what's our action here?
So they would like to request, Bob is here. So they would like to request like a 1-month extension. I was actually going to ask the board and actually Rob, when I was just looking at the timing, our next 30, with 30 days, it would bring us to like, October 24th, which would be an October 22nd. That might be a little bit too tight depending on when I get the plans. So, and I'll refer the plans as soon as possible once I receive them. But I was thinking if we could do an extension to the November 12th, and if I have everything beforehand, I'd be happy to put it on the October 22nd agenda. But for now, let's give them the ability to get the revised survey to us, then accordingly.
And is Rob here?
I am.
believe so, yeah.
Good afternoon.
You're amenable to that?
Yes, actually, I think we would prefer that because the 4 weeks. Jackie, I did speak to Paul DeLangelo this morning, and he said that he was they were delivering the surveys that the Twin Forks did today. So you should have them, I would say, tomorrow. But
Great.
still, I think the 4 weeks might be tight. And if I'm going back to health department, the nightmare. So yeah, if we could have that till November, that would be much appreciated.
So our motion is to extend an
Yes, so
extension
this
to
would
November
be
12th?
an extension of the deadline for final conditional approval until November 12th.
Okay. Do I have a motion on that? Dennis, seconded by Zuccarelli. All in favor? Opposed? Abstentions? 7 in favor.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So we've done the canal properties. Janice did that bond.
No, that's on the canal. Oh, is it on, the 7 is
Canal properties.
canal properties? Oh, really?
Oh,
Not on my
see,
agenda.
we all have different agendas now. This is
Yeah.
good.
I think
Okay,
the agenda is like different from the packet.
Canal properties, Hampton Boathouses, set maintenance.
Janice did that.
Phase 1. Yeah, Janice did that when she was talking.
Okay.
So then we move on to you, Claire, on the canal apartment.
Yeah. Charles, I think John's here. And then John, do you think Kim's here too?
Thanks for asking. She said she was trying to get in, so I would just proceed. I think.
Yeah, Charles just can look for her if she's.
Yeah, if you could. Yeah.
Who is it?
You want
Kim Judd.
Kim Dunn.
Kim Judd?
And I'll start, yeah. I'll
Yeah,
just start
an
with,
overview. Yeah.
in the meantime, because there's a little bit to go through here.
Pretty. This is a 360
Wait,
square.
no, Claire's going to do a prelude.
Yeah, I can do a prelude. Yeah, we saw this a couple, 6 or 8 weeks ago for the SECRA for this. It is a small addition, but it is a site plan and it's a wetlands permit. Just let me get to it, sorry. And so I have a resolution prepared. So just briefly, I'm going to go through, this is the site plan, as you can see. My pointer, I think you can see my pointer, right?
Yes.
This is the addition right here. So there's a small existing part of the building that's being removed here. And then this total is 600 square feet, but the total is 360 for this site. So that's that. Here's the final elevation approved by the ARB. That's the.
So it's a deck.
I'm sorry?
They're putting on a deck?
No, an addition.
Addition to the.
Yeah, I can show you the floor plan. That's right there. So this is the existing, I'm gonna have this wrong. The existing, do they show the existing? Yes. So this is the existing unit. And then there's this portion of it that's being removed. And then this is the addition right here, right there. So 360 of it is new. Okay.
That's only 360 feet. Wow.
Square feet, yep. And then
That's
they
a
got
lot.
the CBA decision. This is the comments from the fire district. They wanted 2 fire hydrants. We could talk about those conditions. So basically, this was something that you reviewed back in 2011 for a condo conversion. I list all the units here, the square footages that are existing, and any that got an addition prior. So this is the baseline, the original square footage, the existing, and this is with the addition 7,770. This is the CO, public comment.
So is this maxed out now? We had some conversation about this.
Yeah, that's part of the discussion. You wanted, and the board will discuss whether they should put at least that they may require some kind of upgrade for the sanitary systems if there's any future expansion, but we can come to that point. I just want to get some background here.
Is
CBA
it a condo or a co-op?
It is a co-op. Co-op.
Okay,
Cooperative, yeah.
Sorry, I was hearing condo line. Okay, so it's a co-op.
Cooperative, yeah.
Yeah, I say condo conversion, but it's a condo co-op for conversion. They can go either way when they get the conversion.
Okay, but it's a co-op.
It is a co-op.
And units.
January 9th, there was a negative declaration. We did referrals. The fire marshal didn't have any issues at this time. Health department not responded. Conservation described the applications 175 feet from the wetlands. The parcel fronts on a dug lagoon, describes it. The water quality of Tiana Bay, poor water quality. The water quality improvement zone. They're recommending a IA system. You had talked about this at the time of the negative declaration and decided it was not warranted at this time due to the size of the addition. And if there was a sanitary upgrade, there would be a natural buffer. And then there was a patio 20 feet from the wetlands that has been removed. I went out there on Tuesday and the patio has been removed. So I'll change any reference to that as that the patio is no longer there.
Okay.
ARB approved it. Hampton Bays Fire District. Now this we just received August 25th. They recommend the following: the installation of the 2 fire hydrants, which I showed you before, one at the entry of the property at East Tanner Road and one at the circle at the end of the property is marked on the application survey.
Is there a hydrant there now
No, there's no hydrant.
in the area?
Not that I know of.
There's one on the other side of East Tiana Road.
Hi, Kim.
Oh, hi, Kim.
Hi, I got let in.
Let in. You mean on the other, just opposite the property?
Yes.
And so I wonder why the fire department would want a hydrant across the street from a hydrant
2 of them.
and then one internally.
If this was a new project for multifamily, they would probably ask for something like that, you know,
But it's existing,
it's existing.
right?
They do make recommendations with the driveway clearance, which I think is reasonable. So I put that as conditions. The only other thing besides the fire district comments is you, as we had just mentioned, about any future expansion. What kind of wording would you want on that, or any kind of warning that you might want an upgrade on the system, considering that the property is, you know, has probably some old sanitary systems on it. And we do want to protect the groundwater, the waters around here. So
Is there overall lot coverage designated for this property?
Yes.
go ahead.
We're way under the lot coverage. Hold on a second.
I thought I put it in someplace. Hold on a second.
We are at 11.1%, where 20 is permitted. We're zoned R40.
Clear, just to double check, this is a 300 some odd square foot addition?
360 square feet.
Yep.
300 some odd square foot. Okay. I'm trying to put this in perspective with the fire hydrants and.
Oh,
Right. They said recommendation. They,
Yeah.
you know, they tried.
No,
well, maybe they thought it was something new. I don't know. It doesn't, there's a hydrant right across the street. It doesn't make much sense. Anything more we need to know here, Claire?
No, so I want to just talk about that language. So we could look at the resolution if the applicants are fine with that. So the first part of the resolution, these are standard with the wetlands permits. And then the special condition is that they follow the plan. And so the changes to the site plan would be a note that the existing driveway should be cleared and maintained. Any obstructions 12 feet 6 inches height, at least 20-foot width to accommodate emergency vehicles access.
What is it now?
At some point, it maybe is not. It may be about 18 feet. That's what I measured. So
Yeah.
Like 17, 18, but that's fine. We'll just do it.
Yeah.
It makes sense.
Okay.
it's reasonable. And then so that would be just to indicate that additional width on the plan, and then the patio to be shown as removed. As I said, it's been removed, so they just need to update that plan to show that. And here's the condition. Well, that would be the same thing, just to make sure future people are on notice about that. And then B is the future expansion of the units. Now, Kim had emailed me, right, Kim, about the wording on this one. If it was just related to 9 and 10, or if it was all the units on the property, or if you want to just say, the planning board might say, you may require, obviously, obviously if someone comes in with another 300 square feet and you don't think it's warranted, but if somebody comes in with 1,000 square feet, you might think it's warranted. So I'm not quite sure what you want to
I
do.
use the word may.
You'd be fine with May?
I would think.
John?
Yeah, that's all we can really ask for. You're saying is you'll leave the issue open. If somebody comes in and they want to add 200 square feet or something, and it's not going to add a bedroom, I think you would maybe not require it. One thing that was helpful in this particular unit was that it had a new wastewater system that was, what, Kim, 6 or 7 years old, maybe?
Yes, 7.
So I think that's one of the reasons why you said, well, you're not really adding a bedroom, and it's not like just an old-fashioned septic system that's just with no holding tank or anything. But so, as long as we understand that you're going to take it on a case-by-case basis, I think it's a cautionary thing. I couldn't object to that, Kim, no?
Yes.
So the fire marshal, comply with the fire marshal requirements. We don't really want to say that, do we?
And the fire district is the one that required these
Hydrants.
the hydrants. Fire marshal is going to be similar to the clearing, and they didn't have any special requirements, but it's just a notice because they have things like numbers, anything, but that's also during building permit review. So
do we address the other requirement for the hydrant?
I didn't address it fully in the staff report, but I can say that
There's a hydrant.
the board felt that this didn't rise to the level of requiring a hydrant, right?
Well, and I think indicate that there's a hydrant directly across the street from the complex.
On the east side of Tiana Road.
Yeah.
Will do.
HVAC systems. Additional lighting, more outdoor lighting, dark sky.
The lighting looked good when I was there, but I always put that in there just in case.
Lighting, good. Okay, anything more, John, Kim?
No, I guess I was just wondering, and we are where we are now, but this is great. It just seems, I'm sitting in my conference room is about 360 square feet. And look at, is there any way this could have been done administratively? Why didn't we fall into that? There must have been a reason. Why? Because there was a variance necessary or something?
Maybe the wetlands.
It's wetlands.
Yeah.
But even that, it just doesn't seem, again, I'm always trying to, I think it would save everybody a lot of time and energy and effort. Do
Well, I
something
think the
like this
planning board like
administrative.
to see certain things, particularly with where you have 10 units.
Of course.
If there's a cumulative impact, how is that going to work?
All right.
You know, other things administratively, but
Yep.
I have a question. How was John able to bust in on the beginning of the movie, the beginning of the meeting when you guys were talking?
movie?
Yeah.
He said he had something.
Charles.
For once in my life, I may actually be a little bit more tech savvy on one little thing.
Raised his hand.
I don't know how you did that.
Well, he had something valuable to add, so.
He raised his hand.
Oh, is that what you, okay, that's a good thing to know. Thank you.
Okay, so if we're good with this,
Thank you.
Yes, I'll change that word to may in the resolution, otherwise is fine, and I'll make that reference in the staff report about the
okay,
team existing, okay?
yep.
Thank you.
Great,
Thank
thanks.
you, Kim, thank you, John. So do we have a motion by Dennis, second by, can't see the board here.
Oh, sorry.
Aye.
Second by Robin, all in favor?
I've
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor.
got the twinkly fingers, so.
I
like
see you, yeah. Okay, so number 10, or maybe it's 11 or 12, whatever.
I think it's, by your agenda, Jackie, I think it would be 10,
It's
because
10,
ours is 9.
and that's the Puccio laundromat. Is he?
Oh, it's,
No,
there should be 12 Foster? Is 12 Foster on there?
Well, Foster. I've got it on mine.
I
Okay,
have mine.
Oh, yeah, sorry, 12 Foster, that was.
that's okay. Yes, we,
Yep, yep.
I know it says otherwise on the agenda, but we did receive a letter from Wayne's office yesterday requesting an extension till October 22nd. They're just having a hard time getting stuff out of the surveyor's office. I understand that Bob Smith is working on revisions to the plan with the owner. So he's asking that the action deadline be extended until October 22nd, 2020.
Is that our next session?
Yeah, it's the session after. It's a month.
Okay, all right. Motion for the extension by Dennis, by a second by Robin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor for an extension on 12 Foster. Then we come to the Puccio laundromat.
Yes.
Is he here, Matthew?
I believe he should be. Charles, can you let Louis Puccio in, please?
Here's him. It's coming in.
Thank you.
So we have your report, Matthew.
Yeah, I sent you a revision yesterday because Lou got me revised plans, and I'll pull them up for you also.
Okay.
I did some small tweaks to the report too, nothing too major.
All right, well, you'll tell us as you move along.
Absolutely. So as you can see, it's for a 6,000 square foot laundromat in Hampton Bays. If you can see on the aerial, this is the former Capital One building. This is actually an office building that's owned by Mr. Puccio. And I think this is Katrinka's Deli over here so everyone can get their bearings. 6,000 square foot laundromat with 65 machines. And the update to the plan was they were able to do some realignment and there's now 58 parking spaces, which is closer to what the requirement is.
Right.
And Mr. Puccio was actually able to get me some elevations too, so you can see how it works. This is the front of the building, which will be facing Montauk Highway. This is I believe this is the eastern elevation, and as you can see, it comes back and is actually raised, and there will be some underground parking in the back of the site to accommodate those additional.
Interesting. How interesting.
In the game.
Yes.
Taking advantage of that slope situation, huh?
Yes.
Oh,
So this is what it looks from the other side. And then I have the pre-submission conference report. So if everybody's ready, I can.
Tell me, are there the same number of machines, 65?
65. The machine count has stayed the same, and he's getting as close as he can in terms of the parking requirement. As you know, we've seen this as a work session. I think it was either in January or February. The pre-submission conference was in June. The parking requirement for this is 1 space per 1 machine. He doesn't meet the parking requirement now, but as you go through the report, I can kind of come up with some options.
Yep.
So I've kind of already summarized. Like I said, the hearing was on June 25th. No public comments were received at the hearing, nor within the 30-day written comment period. As the layout that he's proposing requires variances for parking, the first thing I included that this report should serve as a referral report to the zoning board of appeals should he seek variances. In terms of parking, they did provide calculations, including, like I said, 1 per 1 machine. Calculations were also provided for a drop-off counter of 1 space and 1 employee space. Those aren't required by the code that I can see for a laundromat. If he wants to give additional parking for employees, that's great. But the true requirement is 65 spaces, the 1 per 1 machine. Possible mitigation that Lou can maybe fit more parking in. If you can see on the site plan, this is something that I thought. It kind of faces this way. It points to, I guess that's the northwest. Possibly, maybe if he tweaked the building a little bit. I know he's working on an engineer to do everything possible so the building is more parallel to Montauk Highway. Possibly, maybe they can get 1 or 2 more 90-degree parking spaces over here, provided they have adequate travel aisle space.
Yeah.
That's just an option going forward. There's also cross-access that's shown on the back of the plan that goes to the parcel to the west, to the east. That's an office building. It's 7 units with 28 parking spaces. Recommending the filing of a cross-access easement and a
Have
shared.
we discussed shared
Go
parking at
back
all?
to the elevations, please.
Elevation, sure, John.
Have we discussed?
Have all these windows. Now go
Yeah.
to the other side.
Yes.
There
No
is no.
windows on that side.
Is
Yeah.
there any particular reason why? Except,
I don't know. These are just the basic elevations that he submitted for the
Right.
pre-submission. It's something that can be worked out at the formal site plan.
this is
We
the
can
west
ask him.
elevation.
We can ask him, John. This is
Yeah,
the
I check
western
it because
side.
it looks weird.
Yeah.
Got a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
wondered
windows
why-
on the side.
I wondered why all those windows were there too. It looks like it's per
Yeah.
machine or something.
I think
Yeah.
it's pretty blocked
Lou,
on the west side.
Lou might be able to speak to that.
Okay, so getting back to,
Sorry. Let me get back to my report. I don't know where it went. Yes. So cross-access is shown to the east. It's a 7-unit office with 28 spaces. I'm recommending the requirement for a cross-access easement and shared parking agreement. I'm not recommending any waiver of the parking by this board only because the applicant hasn't demonstrated that these 2 uses in terms of their parking demand aren't in conflict with each other. Mainly, the offices during the week is going to be open largely at the same time as when the laundromat's open.
true.
So Mr. Puccio could either seek a variance or reduce the amount of machines on site so he meets those requirements in terms of parking.
Even by 5 machines, he comes closer.
He
right?
comes closer, yeah.
Yeah.
In terms of landscaping is not indicated on the site plan. A formal landscaping plan will be required as part of the application. Should include street trees as well as interior plantings, including those landscape islands within the parking area. Drainage, no drainage structures are showed. That'll be a requirement and subject to the review of the town engineer. Secret, this is a type 1 action because 50 or more parking spaces are required. So we'll have to make a secret determination prior to deeming the site plan application complete. Architecture, they did provide the elevations. We'll need, formal elevations and floor plans at the time of site plan. Dumpster, they show that on, I believe it's the southwest corner of the building. We'll need evergreen screening, handicap access. This is a little typo on my part. 4 handicap spaces are shown that it should say is in compliance with town code, not is not. So I'll change that. Septic, that's subject to the review of Suffolk County Department of Health. I know during the work session, Mr. Puccio did speak to possibly needing DEC review and approval for the laundromat's water treatment system so that, he'll need that prior to going to the build out. Mechanicals, it'll have to be screened. Lighting, a lighting plan will have to be submitted and it'll have to be dark skies compliant. And number 12, there was some unauthorized activity on site. During this process, the site was cleared. I believe a violation was issued, and we're just, recommending that Mr. Puccio not do any more site work until after approval is received or he gets the permission of the board.
Mr. Puccio, do you want to speak to this? Okay, there you are at the baseball field.
No, that's,
But this is
I'm-
Michael.
yeah, I'm the engineer. I work with Lou. I think Lou is supposed to be online as well.
Charles, is Lou Puccio in the waiting room?
I'm looking.
Yeah, I see just Lewis, yeah, as an attendee. I assume that's probably Lou.
Coming.
There you are. Great. You have to unmute yourself. Can you?
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. Thank you. So Matthew's gone over the application, the report.
The elevations are just drawn to show outside elevation, not really windows or anything like that.
Well, we had a question why one side has all of those windows and one side doesn't. What is that?
If you don't mind, I can answer that question.
Sure.
Good afternoon. I'm Mike Rubenstein. I'm with Tide Runner Engineering. Matt, can you bring up the floor plan?
Yeah, sure.
Thank you. Yeah, so if you could see from the floor plan, that elevation, that's the back of all the dryer units.
Is that facing east?
This is the western side, Jackie.
Yeah,
This is the windowless side.
the
Okay.
windowless side, correct. So it's kind of the service side, so to speak. So there's really no opportunity to put in windows because all you'd be looking at is the back of the machines. We tried to keep the, if you look at the east elevation, that's more of the, where all the washing machines are and kind of the main space where the public would be, washing the clothes and the laundry. And then we have windows along Montauk Highway as well. And then to answer the Matt's comment regarding the additional parking, Matt, if you wouldn't mind bringing up that east elevation. Yeah, obviously with the grade change.
Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah, it'd be very difficult. So that's why I have 2 sets of ramps and things going up to the main set of doors. And just to break up that facade over there, that's why we provided windows. You know, let natural light in and just kind of enhance that view, that elevation. Additionally, the western elevation, which is basically the service elevation, is abutting another property. It's approximately 20 feet wide. And then we're going to screen that and plant that as part of the landscaping requirements.
Yeah.
So, you know, we have some equipment and stuff that we want to screen. So I'm not really sure that there's an opportunity to put some windows in.
Well, how high are the machines, the internal machines? They're not up to the ceiling.
No, they wouldn't be up to the ceiling, but they are commercial. They are double stacked for dryers.
So you have an opportunity to put some more windows in that side, at least even for ventilation.
Yeah, that west side is not very visible. I'm very familiar with the site. It sort of butts up against, it's really the east side that really has the exposure.
Correct. That's why we did it the way we did it. Yeah, and I think there's a building or structure that's right on that.
Yeah, can you go back to the map, please? Yeah, that one. Thank you.
Yeah, so that would be right in here.
Right. Okay. So that's the architectural issue, and it's a shingled,
It's hardy plank beige. That's what they're proposing with white AZEK trim.
okay,
Traditional roof at this point.
okay.
What is that building to the west? Huggin Montauk Highway.
I think it's a small store. I'm not actually too sure off the top of my head.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, that's a
It's a t-shirt store.
yeah, t-shirts.
That's why that blocks the view as you're traveling eastbound. You really can't see, get a lot of visibility because that building blocks the view. The westbound has a much
Yeah.
Right.
more expansive view.
Be a good opportunity for some good landscaping if that's, you know, truly a service side. They can, you know, work out a nice planting plan during the site plan review.
Right.
Yeah, that was the intent.
To break up the mess.
So, Lou, we still have a parking issue. And so the question is, would you consider reducing the number of machines so that you don't have to juggle with all of this parking?
I feel that I've done all I can to get the parking up, and I really wanted more machines. I gave up my whole basement in the building, and I squeezed everything in as much as I can. And even though my building next door is open Monday to Friday, 8:30 to 4:30, that's not the peak hours for the laundromat. Peak hours is when that whole my whole office building is empty, and so the peak hours are different. And there's going to be plenty of use on the parking lot of my office building.
And it's not used on the weekends when the laundromat is used?
A laundromat is.
8:30 to 4:30. The office building's 8:30 to 4:30 Monday to Friday. It's not on holidays either.
Right, so weekends it would be available.
And all weekends at night after 5, after 4:30 or 5.
The question is, how do you manage that? How would you manage that?
I just don't think that during the day or the whole parking lot is going to be packed with cars in the laundromat. Most of the times it's after work and weekends.
Well, the existing laundromat in Southampton the parking lot is packed all the time. So it's a high use, it's high use.
The one in the village?
Yeah.
That has like 15 parking spaces and 55 machines.
No, it's the new one where the old dry cleaner used to be, right? Before you come, it's east of.
Is it behind 7-Eleven?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, that's the one that only has like 15 parking spaces or 20 parking spaces.
It has more than that.
Not when I looked.
Yeah, no, it has. Matthew, are you here? Matthew?
I could go check that and give that.
I'm here.
Yeah, I think you should check it.
Might there be some data from the industry that gives you some guidelines on time of use of laundromats?
Yeah, I think that'd be an appropriate thing but it's, the burden is on Mr. Puccio to, provide the evidence, so to speak, that the demands are not in conflict in terms of their parking and, in order for this board to ever consider a waiver. It's not something I'm recommending at this time, but I think it might be more appropriate for him to seek the relief from the ZBA for those, few spaces that he has left.
Lou, who is your tenant next door that you're sharing the parking with? What is occupying that building right now, for the record?
That's Robin. I spoke to him in the report. It's a 28. It's the office building. It's actually owned by Mr. Puccio.
Yeah, I know, but what is?
What kind of?
There's 4 attorneys there and an ex-judge, and the Gardner Foundation that owns Gardner Island, and a pool guy that's just there during the day, Matrix Pools.
Okay, because that parking lot is heavily used between 9:30 and 4:30. That is a heavily used parking lot.
Probably half or 3/4 filled.
Yeah.
But after that, no one's there.
Talk a little bit about this underground or under building parking that you've devised. Can we see the site plan, Matt?
Yeah. So Jackie, if you follow here, this is the dotted line. The building actually does go this far back. The engineer showed it as a dotted line just so you can see the parking that's underneath. And if you can see on the elevation, that's where that is.
And how many units do you get under there? How many cars do you fit under there?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Looks like 10.
10.
Yeah.
So are you thinking of that for staff primarily or patrons as well?
Well, it's open to everybody, but mostly it's going to be employees and people that work there, and probably going to not be used until it needs to be used, if it's overfilled. Which I don't think that's gonna happen.
Well, you know, you can't, you don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but like other towns are like half of the parking. So I'm trying to do my best. That's why I gave up my basement and put underground parking to get as close as I could possibly can to the 65 machines.
When you say other towns, what do you refer?
I have a list of all the towns that use half the parking.
Yeah, and if Lou, if you have that information and he wants to bring that in at, you know, when he's submitting his formal application, they can, as far as I can understand, the board can make that determination at that time if Lou has the information to provide.
Yeah,
this is, you know, getting, you know, outlining the issues for Lou and pointing him into the direction that the board feels that he needs to go. Yes, this is the first step.
So this is just, you know, guidance for you to go forward, Lou. And then I guess the way to go is either the zoning board of appeals, if you want the straight variance for the parking, or if you get all the information together that warrants a waiver from the planning board, they can consider it a work session in the future before, you know,
Yeah.
fully proceed with the site plan application, okay?
And mechanicals, are you going to be able to put the mechanicals somewhere?
Mechanicals, what are you talking about? The venting for the machines?
No, the HVAC units and
AC.
compressor.
I haven't gotten that far yet.
Yeah, I mean, it's a condition of site plan approval that, you know, that all needs to be screened and showed on the plan. So when he comes back, we'll have to see all that as part of our review.
So give us a parking, a shared parking plan with times, et cetera, so that we'll have some findings. You know, right now it's just speculation and it's very difficult. So that's the purpose of a pre-submission report that identifies all of the issues. So if there's no more comment on it, we can adopt this pre-submission report. A motion by Dennis, second by Zuccarelli, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. So Lou, you'll continue to work with Matt on this?
Yes.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Lou.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving on to GTB Real Estate Group. In a pre-submission conference report on the 18-hole. Is Carl here? Is Carl?
Yeah, Charles, could you let Carl Benacasa in?
Got it.
Great. Just to summarize, we had reviewed this at the last meeting and the board just wanted some updated language. We thought it could be cleaner with that. In the meantime, the applicant provided some information about the buffers. And hi, Carl.
Hey.
Hi, Carl.
Just identify yourself for the record, if you don't mind.
Carl Benacasa for the applicant. Good to see everyone.
This is Blaney. I have to recuse myself on this application.
Who is that?
Blaney.
Okay. Blaney's recused.
Turn your video off, Blaney. Or whatever. Walk away.
Charles, can you turn that video off?
Well, you can see he's out of the room, so.
All right.
Exiting.
So you had talked about easing the buffer in the front yard and then keeping the buffer in the back along Booker Lane as much as possible. Now, what Carl rightly pointed out to me is that this is not HB, so there's no 50-foot setback to roads. And so there's some relief on that. The motel is more of a 20-foot setback, but the applicant is probably going to provide a 30-foot setback. Carl, you want to go over what you were going to do? Do you want me to pull up the plan too?
Yes, please.
Sharing the screen. Sharing. Sorry, I have to reboot my computer. Maybe you want to speak, Carl, before I.
Sure. So I mean, we had just asked for this to be put over. The original pre-submission report discussed the need for variances, so we wanted that cleared up. And then in the interim, which has been, and then in the interim, there was, you know, I looked into the transition yards, and I realized that we did have a little more room to work with than we thought. It wasn't that 50 feet. But I think those were the primary or the primary issues we had to address from the last time we were here. And I think we kind of thoroughly addressed the site plan application last time. So I think it was put over just for those few points of clarification.
Carl, we also had some issue with these sand dunes and grasses as a buffer to be replaced with vegetation. So have you discussed that with the client?
We've had a very preliminary discussions about how we plan to address the concerns you raised at the last one when we submit the full site plan application. I would expect that as we move forward, that your concerns will be thoroughly addressed.
Here we are.
Yeah, so that's the aerial, and I'll put up Carl's revised plan. I think it's this one. Yeah. So he's showing that reduced buffer in the front. And then this one is going to be proposed to be 35 feet, which is a better setback than prior. I think it was at 20 prior.
And heavily vegetated, right?
Yeah,
Yes.
they're showing it to be heavily vegetated here. I think you wanted more vegetation here rather than just having a dune.
Yes.
Something more significant there, so.
Yeah, the plan is to have beach grass in there, and those dune type fences is sort of to be reminiscent of the beach, obviously. But we're certainly willing to work with you on whatever the board is comfortable with as far as that buffer goes.
Right. We do have 4 seasons. We have winter.
Yeah, that would be my concern. The beach grass looks pretty.
Snow, rain.
Yeah.
So I think you need to consider some good, nice vegetation there. It can look good. It could look great.
Sure.
And you could put some beach grass internally if you wanted to. So is there enough parking here?
Yeah, this meets the parking requirement that they outlined. 65 parking spaces, I think, right, Carl? Something to that.
Yeah, that's correct. This was done since we last spoke, and with Claire's suggestion last time that we use the pre-existing setbacks for the restaurant, we were able to get much more parking in there. So.
Okay, but we don't have the planted islands on these parking.
It does actually. These count. These would count also if they planted these, and then this would count also.
That's planted?
Yeah, if all those were planted, but they actually ran the numbers and they have more planting than required for 99J.
There was concern by the neighbors about staff parking not being enough. Is that now taken into consideration?
They proposed one more, I think, right?
Staff parking was always considered, and yes, it is accounted for. You got to remember this: the plan for the restaurant is not table service. You'd order at the counter, so there's the amount of employees for the restaurant would not be as demanding as your typical sit-down restaurant.
I don't think I've ever heard that before. I thought we were questioning what kind of restaurant it was going to be.
We did. We know. So you're saying takeout, Carl?
No, just counter service.
So you pick it up at the counter and go sit at a table?
Yes, exactly. Many restaurants are operating like that, just that.
So we have here parking calculations, 30 for the restaurant and 37 for the miniature golf is 67. And how many are accounted for?
67 provided.
So you got enough parking. Okay. Lighting, we looked at lighting? No lighting trespass off the property?
Yeah, that's part of what you had asked for in the report.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So what are we doing?
Adopting a pre-submission report?
Uh-huh.
This was just put over to amend the pre-submission report in that one, really just for the ZBA aspect, but now the transition yard. So we would just ask that you adopt this report and then we move on to the full site plan.
I'll make some changes to the references to the buffers, the transition yards, but then I'll adopt the report if everybody's agreeable to that.
Okay, and the dune?
And the dune, I say mature.
To the dune.
The board favors more mature evergreen vegetation along Montauk Highway and Booker Lane, which is what you said prior.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Good.
Great.
So,
Okay.
any other questions? Can I have a motion to approve the pre-submission report? Dennis, second by Gloria. All in favor? Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor.
No, 6. Blaney.
6, one recusal,
Blaney was
sorry, one recusal, Blaney. So there we are.
Thank you very much.
Tomorrow.
Take care.
You too.
Bye-bye.
And number 12, Bridge Petroleum. I had done those edits and sent them to you. John Bennett is here, but they asked to have this put over to October 8th. I gave them a copy of your recommendations for the convenience store, and I think they want to digest the information and the public comments on the project. That's
Right. So this is an extension to October?
not even an extension. He's asked for it to be put over to October 8th, so we're all set. No action.
No action, okay.
Okay.
Um,
If John's okay, I didn't hear from him, but he
Okay.
emailed me this, or Bailey emailed me this, so, okay.
So the Long Island
Until
Automobile
Blaney comes
Collectors,
back. Somebody ought to let Blaney know to come back.
How do you?
who is that?
Call him, throw a rock, throw a pigeon, something.
You can't hear anything. Well,
Maybe somebody.
can you do anything?
I've been trying.
Okay.
Okay, keep trying. So the next is the Long Island Automobile Collectors, Claire.
Yeah,
Application.
could you let Joe Lombardi in?
Yep.
Great, thank you. Share my screen. So you remember Long Island Automobile Collectors, and you had approved this about 3 months ago. The DPW has come back on the project, and they're requiring that the entrance here be only one way in,
Good.
which is better.
Good, that's what we wanted.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So
that's
Joe
what we
emailed me this and was awaiting the DPW to come back and with a referral, which they just came back and said that's what they want, a 15-foot only access from County Road 39. So that means the only two-way access would be from
Sandy Hollow Road.
yeah, but he's just started to review this. I think he whipped this together today to get us something to look at. But it makes sense. So you could do a modification to the site plan, approving this, and obviously subject to plans that would be reviewed by the town engineer and you prior to signature.
Joe, are you there? Joe Lombardi?
Yes, I am.
Can you identify yourself, please?
Hi, this is Joe Lombardi from the Rayner Group for the applicants.
Okay. So everything good with you about the modification to the just one way in for County Road 39. We had originally wanted that.
Yes, it works.
Yeah.
It was really difficult trying to squeeze in a two-way entrance or an entrance and exit in that spot. That we tried with the little triangular island that the board was interested in, but it just made the apron there too wide.
Right.
And the county wanted us to try to get a little bit further away from the bus shelter.
Yes.
So this accomplishes that by having just an entrance and narrowing the width of the entrance drive. So it works for us.
Good. Okay.
So that would be a simple resolution. I'll just include the comments from the DPW if you want to pass it.
Yep. So do I have a motion to accept the modification on the report by Phil? Motion by Phil, second by Robin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Is Blaney back?
I'm back.
Seven in favor. We didn't
Thanks,
have
everyone.
to.
So start my video.
Laney, you got to put your video on.
Put your video on.
Do I just hit to start my video?
Yes.
Yes.
Yay.
Hey, you did it by yourself. That's great.
Oh,
Dennis,
there he is.
There, you're over here.
Dennis showed
Okay.
me how to do it.
Now we move on to Jackie, the Oceanside map 406.
Yes, and if Blair or Joe Gaza is available in the waiting room, if they could be let in.
Coming.
There's Gaza.
Thank you.
Last week we had both Gazas.
you're so lucky.
They talk to us?
Hold on, we're on.
Oh, they're together. Okay, good.
We got two Gazas.
Two Gazas and one
Yes.
picture.
Thank you. We're having a little internet problems in our home. We're on Blair's cell phone, so I hope you can hear me.
Oh, clearly.
Kennedy, can you hear me? Oh,
Very
Mr.
good.
Chairman?
We can even see you.
We can see you and hear you.
See you.
So just state your name for the record before Jackie gives us an overview.
Just
Yep,
listen to it, just talk.
Okay,
Just talk.
this is Joseph Gaza, 5 Ogden Lane, Quogue. I don't have visual because something's happening with my daughter's internet, but we are on the cell phone, so I can hear you.
And Blair?
Oh, here's Blair.
Yep.
Say hi. Yep, Blair's here.
We just need your name for the record, Blair.
Blair.
Blair Gaza.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Jackie, you want to?
Yes. So let me share the screen.
There on the screen.
All right, so if you can see here, I prepared an aerial. I also have the resolution. So this is just like a zoomed in of the aerial. So the area that Joe is asking to improve would be the eastern side of this ocean side, map number 406. He is proposing to access the development section through an easement, a 50-foot easement, which is shown here on the plan. So this is Peters Lane, which intersects with South Country Road here, and the proposed access would be through an access easement over this property, which is oversized for the zone, and then to provide access down and hang here. So this is on for just scheduling the hearing for the new old file map request for an opening of a development section.
So the town will open it. You'll open it and.
Well, he's provided a plan. It is our responsibility to review it and to decide where development is appropriate. This is his proposal right now. So you can see this is lot 1 right here, lot 2 here, 3, 4, and then 5 is at the very bottom here.
So these are receiving sites?
These would be receiving, although in total, this is the R40 zoning district. So in total, he has approximately 259,000 square feet. So his intent is to provide conforming lots that wouldn't need a transfer of development rights. But we do have to open the map, review the access. There's also, as you can see on the aerial, there's extensive wetlands This is a creek that comes all the way up here. And if the board remembers, the Roscoe Farms here, up to the north.
Yeah.
Let me see. I might be able to get it on the aerial.
Much further north.
Sorry, I was over in Hampton Bays. So here you go. This is the Roscoe Farms extension that came up here. And then
Yeah.
space in here. So Joe Gaza's map is just to the south. And if you'll recall, the map, I think, was revised. It used to have a through road here. And then it was revised based upon town purchase of land and is now terminating in a cul-de-sac.
So where you're showing water, is that the blue area that is?
Yes.
Jackie, is that all? How can you build there? Shouldn't that be a sending site?
Well, he won't be building there. He's proposing his building envelope. So if you'd like, I can show you again. But just so you can visualize, this is the greater, area. This is the creek that comes up and goes under Montauk Highway. And then Joe owns these lots here and is proposing access through here. This is freshwater wetlands here. And I'll show you again. Oops, sorry. Here. This is his proposal for development, which is this map right here. So the wetlands are here. He does show the flagging line. I think the flagging line is right here. If you can see that dashed line that the hand is following right here.
So if he builds, he has to have substantial setbacks, right?
Well, so here's the building setbacks that he's proposing. So those are pushed back. And so I believe he shows, it's kind of hard to see on this plan, but he's showing 75 feet and then 100 feet, which would be the start of the building envelope. But this would just be to schedule the hearing so that we can review this formally, and then I can send out referrals so we can get comments back from the advisory boards. But I just want to give you a brief, summary of that. Joe, I don't know if you want to clarify anything on the record before we.
Well, may I speak at this time?
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm on the cell phone. This property is the tail end of an old filed map. The northerly and the westerly side was developed by Ken Tadaldi. It was called Oakland Farms.
Oh, sorry, Oakland Farms. Sorry.
And this is just the southerly 6 acres of the old filed map. Now, I'm proposing to preserve with either deed to the town or conservation easement 4 of the 6 acres, so that only 2 acres will be developed and the houses will have the proper setbacks, and the wetlands will be protected either by conservation easement or by deeding the land, actually deeding it right to the town. This property has been before you, maybe 5 or 6 years ago. It's unique in that its access was cut off by action of the Community Preservation Department and the Planning Department. The Planning Department, in approving the Oakland Farms map to the west, eliminated my access from this property to the Jeffries Lane, which is to the west. And there's all houses along there now, so I can no longer get to my 6 acres. But the planning board did leave an alternate access way called Kathy's Way, which goes to the north of my property and connects into Peters Lane. So I thought that was the alternate way in, and I went along with developing my land or proposing to develop my land using Kathy's Way. Then we found out that there was a little chad of property that blocked my way to Kathy's Way that was should have been deeded to the town and was supposed to be, but somehow it wasn't. So the way the Kathy's Way was blocked after I bought another parcel on this old map to get myself access. At that point, I was really boxed in, and I had no way to get to my land. And I negotiated with the owner of an oversized lot on Peters Lane for a 30-foot right-of-way in exchange for lot number 1 on my map. So I have to give up a lot just for the privilege of using a 30-foot right-of-way to get to lots 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's what's before you now. And I'm hoping to have this hearing in person so I can show you all the maps up on the wall, and I can better explain where I've been and where we are with this map and where I'd like to go with it. It is an old filed map. It's in the CR 40 zone, and I have 6 acres for 5 lots. So I have more land than is necessary to make the lots.
Thinking way back, wasn't Oakland Farms a development where they were really in a major flood zone? And some of those houses would have been underwater in a extreme situation. Jackie, do you have any history on that?
Well, it might.
Wilcox handled that application. Dennis, do you remember it? Oakland Farms? Oh.
That's on the mark right on the map, aren't they, Jackie?
The only thing I can think of is that might be when the FEMA flood zones were implemented.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is a creek, so it's not going to be as heavily impacted as, open water, as a, Peconic Bay or Atlantic Ocean, but it is showing that it's in FEMA zone 10. But then as you get further away, I don't know, I can't tell if they're showing any other FEMA zones that change in the area. But this is FEMA zone 10. Depending on the setback from that line, he's building over here. So he is removing himself from that FEMA flood zone. And actually the flood zone actually might, if I go here, the flood zone actually might disappear after.
I think it's AE, Jackie.
Okay.
On GIS, yeah.
Yeah. So here's the flood zone. So you'll see this is the orange. So he's proposing to build in this vicinity.
Okay, well, you have to take that into consideration.
Yeah,
sure.
Yep, and that's wetlands that have been flagged also by Marty, which is shown here. So this is the edge of wetlands right here.
Is there public water at Peters? Do we know?
Yes.
I believe there is, and he's
Yes.
proposing to extend the water, but via private water lines.
You're going to do private service lines? You're not going to bring the main in on the strip? I guess you can't, right?
You can't because it's private property. So when it's an easement situation, the county is not comfortable putting in a main, but they will do a water line easement. So each of these will have their individual service that will come along here. I believe, is that shown here, Joe?
Yes, it should be shown on the map. I tried to put a water main extension with a hydrant at the end, and the water authority rejected it. They said, nope, we're not doing it.
There's no way to secure actual title for that, Joe, right? You can only do an easement. That's the best.
Easement. Yeah, I can't get title because it is 1 acre zone, and he can't cut a piece off of his property. He would reduce it, make it a non-conforming lot. And he's not prepared to do that anyway. He might want 2 lots for the title.
And so the only other thing I wanted to discuss is, we've been leaning towards notifying, with old file maps. These have been, a little bit more, I guess, followed by the surrounding neighborhood. And given that there's no development and we've never opened this before, I have a resolution prepared. But generally, I do encourage that we mail adjacent property owners. It wouldn't be too many in this case because Joe owns essentially the entire development section, old file map section left. So it would just put these property owners on notice that are on either side that there is going to be development of this by certified mailing. So if the planning board's comfortable with that, I will add that into the resolution so that they do receive certified mailings and can comment at the public hearing. But otherwise, it'll just be posted, here, essentially.
Okay. Any other questions?
Are we given, what's our action?
Yeah, what is the
This
action?
would be to set the public hearing for the applicant's request for opening a development section in an old file map. So, and then I have a hearing date for November 12th.
November 12th.
Jackie, just a question from me.
Mhm.
The other lots that are in green and yellow that seem to be undeveloped, what?
Town of Southampton, and Suffolk County. Those are preserved lands that I highlighted.
I can't see that. It's too small.
Oh, no problem. No problem. Yeah, those are already preserved.
Thank you.
Generally open space for the town, the county, usually it's in parks, shows for preservation purposes.
It's environmentally very sensitive. You'll check all the setbacks, Jackie? I'm concerned
Yeah.
about that.
We've already been discussing that this summer, the setbacks. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So generally it's a 100-foot buffer. Structures can start at 125. So he can show compliance with those, and then sanitary at 150, which would put the sanitary systems the furthest away. So more like on this side.
Okay.
And these would require IA systems because this is
You took the words out of my head.
And I'll add that to the description too.
What's the level of groundwater here?
Joe, do you have a test hole?
Yeah,
on
I
here?
think it's about 12 to 14 feet. You hit groundwater on this where the house is going to go.
Okay.
Do you have
You
the
can see topo lines are on the survey, and they're in the 20s. If you can, I'm looking at them now. Where the houses are going to go, they're about, let's see, 16, 18 feet elevation. So you hit water at about 12 feet.
Okay.
So this one, this one shows down. It went down 12 feet, and it says no groundwater. And this one just shows the soil course and the test holes. Not sure. Is that a test? No. Oh, and this is a typical IA system that was drawn just to show the planning board where a septic system would be located. Joe, do you know where the test holes were taken?
Yeah, they're shown on the map, but they're to the east and to the west. They were done with the Oakland Farms map. We didn't go on to the 6 acres of my section in the old map and dig any holes yet.
Oh, okay. That's why we can't see the location.
Well, they're noted on the survey. If you can see on the borders of the survey, it shows where test holes are.
There's one.
Up there? Way up there?
Yeah.
Yeah, there should be one to the south and the west.
There's one to the north right here, Joe, north of lot 1. And then
Let's look to the south and west, please.
right here. It's actually to the north and west, Joe. That's the other test hole.
Oh, it's okay. I'm looking at one.
It's okay. 211 feet west of Joe's properties. There's one here. And then there's one north that the surveyor depicts, which is right here.
They do it that far away and not on the land?
Well, no, Joe has not paid for his own test hole. So if the planning board would like to see a test hole because of your concern for depths of groundwater, that's something you can ask for.
Okay, I would like that.
That would be fine with me. I know that the health department would also like to see a test hole. They want one dug and they want one of their inspectors there. So I was hesitant about going onto the property and digging any holes without permission from planning board.
Well, that's the only other thing too. Does the planning board want to grant permission? Because if you truly want him to get a test hole here, he's going to need to get his equipment in here and do some amount of clearing. You know how we sometimes in the interim allow for disturbance on subdivisions to show a test hole? If the planning board's comfortable, or do you want to wait till the public hearing and then request the test hole based upon?
If he's going to put in AI systems and there's 2 feet to groundwater, he's not going to be able to do that. So why don't we look at it up front? We can wait for the public hearing.
The department's going to require it, right?
Well, I'm just letting you know there'll be disturbance within this wooded area associated with the test hole if you request it, because he has to get vehicles back there to dig the test hole.
I'm just saying, what are we going to do with the data once we get the data from the test holes?
We will look at it to see the depth of groundwater.
Right,
to-
well, he could do it right in that area where he's indicated an AI system would go. Doesn't it show on lot 3?
I support getting a test hole that's closer to the subject development. I'm just letting you know there would be some disturbance of this existing wooded area if we ask for that.
Well, it could be minimal, right? We could.
I'm just.
May I say that, we are at elevation 16, and I can tell you that from walking on the property to get down to where the Aspetuck Creek is, you drop at least 10 to 12 feet in elevation. So I don't think we're going to hit groundwater there until at least 10 to 12 feet, maybe even more. But if I'm happy to do whatever you suggest.
I think they should.
I mean, Jackie, we could get an idea of a test hole by just doing it right here. So that way he has the access easement here, and we can do one where my hand is essentially located. So that way he doesn't have to disturb a wooded portion a little bit further south.
Okay.
And Joe, I'm not sure if you can see my hand.
I'm looking at the big map, and I don't think I can dig it on my easement area. But
No, just at the end of the easement area.
Oh, okay. Yeah, on my property would be okay.
Yeah, on your property, basically on the northeast corner of proposed lot 2.
Yep. The health department was looking for a test hole where the AI system is.
That's just what I
they
said.
requested it.
That's just what I
Yep,
said.
you're on track.
Which I'm completely fine with, but we're looking at the design of the map. I just, this will cause some clearing. He'll have
How
to
much clearing, Jackie? I mean,
you could ask Joe. Joe's been, I haven't been to the site yet.
We'll keep it minimal.
okay.
Okay.
I mean, I would think that's the logical place for it too.
Yeah.
But
No,
that-
I'm in support of
They want to see it right where the AI system is going to
Right.
go.
Exactly.
Yeah, I just wanted to be clear that we're authorizing some clearing and disturbance before the map will be approved. That's all. I think a test hole would be beneficial.
Just for the test hole.
Yep.
Wouldn't you have to get one of the well digging trucks in there? I guess that would be about the biggest piece of equipment, right?
Yeah, generally it's a pickup truck.
They do with a backhoe.
Well, that's kind of what I was thinking. Yeah.
Sometimes they dig a little bit.
Okay, so.
Do you want me to add that to the resolution just to authorize the
Yeah.
test hole?
I think so.
Okay.
Jackie, I have a question still. The elevation is different. I think I heard among these lots. So if you do one test hole where one IA system is, will the data be able to be interpolated to give us the answer we need?
Well, where Jackie would like it and where Joe is showing this just hypothetical IA system is, it's kind of in the middle of his development. So hopefully it will give us a good indication. And if there's anything troubling on the test hole, we could ask for more, and the health department will actually require more before those IA systems are approved. And it really depends what kind of drainage leaching field you're using.
Right.
There are leaching field options with an IA system that actually only go down about 18 inches to 2 feet and are done, differently.
Just bigger.
Yeah, takes more ground area, but the piping is basically, it's a drainage. It's like called a leaching field rather than like leaching galleys or leaching, structures.
It makes for nice grass growing.
Okay, so you want to schedule a public hearing for November 12th. You're going to add that. Anything more, Joe?
I'm happy with that. I'm happy that we can get before the board with this map. Hopefully I can do it in person because this is kind of rough for me to do this on the computer with my daughter.
Well, we've all had to learn, Joe.
You're right.
So, not too many sympathies.
But the older ones like me, I'm 70 now, it's a struggle.
You're a chicken. You're a chicken.
Onward to irrelevance.
Okay, so I'm just gonna add that we. I'll just add that we would like certified mailings to the adjacent property owners and that we authorize a test hole in the vicinity of the IA system shown on the plan.
Right. And a hearing November 12th?
Correct, yep.
Okay, do I have a motion for that?
Motion.
Motion by Gloria and second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions is, yeah, okay.
Everyone's here.
Everyone's there.
7 yes, okay.
Yes.
7 yes.
Thank you.
Okay, we have 2
Good.
site disturbances.
Thank you.
Yes,
Goodbye.
sir.
You're
Bye,
welcome.
everyone.
Bye,
I'm here.
Matthew.
And we'll share the screen for everybody. We can leave Mr. Puccio here. Okay.
Oh, this was one of the properties, oh.
This is Alec and Willie Mae Pickney, Lot 2. This is 873 Bridgehampton Sag Harbor Turnpike. It's a 41,014 square foot property, CR40 zone, APOD, archaeological extensive area. Pretty straightforward plan. They were overcleared. It came in as part of a building permit, as most do, as we were discussing earlier. Getting a substantial amount of trees around the outside. Here, I went out to the property. They actually have a lot of good tree cover here, so most of the stuff they're planting is ground cover and shrubs. But there's no other questions.
So is it too premature to?
I think so. I mean, we haven't established a policy yet. I think it'd be better once the policy.
We have the language.
And this
Yeah.
is linked to a C of O, you saying?
Well, this would be for a certificate of compliance for an addition. So that's the hook we have. So, you know, as typical for all the other ones, you know, the condition number 1 is everything shall be inspected prior to the issuance of CO, and then the submission of the as-built survey so we can actually verify.
Okay. It's too bad we don't have it yet, but we'll have it soon.
We will have it soon.
Yeah. Motion to approve this reveg. Someone, motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, and all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. The next one, Matthew, Crooked Pond, lot 38.
Yep. This is up on Toppings Path in Sagaponack after the fork in the road, if everyone's familiar with the area.
Yeah.
Wow.
A little bit smaller for property. This is a 17,444 square foot parcel. Oh, sorry, I'm reading the wrong one here. It's a 27,255 square foot parcel, lot 38 in Crooked Pond Acres. It's in the CR 120 zone. Pretty nice plan that was done. I had the opportunity to walk the property with the landscape architect who's preparing it. They're doing a significant amount of re-veg in the back. Again, this came as part of an application to the building department. So we're getting some pitch pines, some red maple, oak trees, shadbush, and bayberries in the back. Also some plantings along the outside. I believe this is more shad. This will be the front along the road. And this is our true number of everything that they're doing on the property. So we're getting 17 trees, 122 shrubs, and 160 grasses and ground covers, which is a fair amount.
Hopefully they'll plant in October next month.
Hopefully. we can hope.
Yeah.
This is actually so in case anyone's curious, the applicant actually this is how we handle it. They included our checklist as part of their application. So, you know, the board can get a better idea of what we give out to people. So it's a pretty simple list that, you know, this was prepared by me back in December of 2018. As you can see, it's been hanging out for a while. But, you know, it outlines the trees, the sizes, you know, sizes for shrubs, ground covers, and then it's a nice comprehensive checklist that I go out to the property and based on, you know, whatever natural community it's in, which Marty has, you know, worked on to get those overlays into GIS. We recommend specific species for that area.
Great.
All right. And
Yeah,
then, you know, just a typical resolution for this too. They exceeded their 60%, so subject to an inspection and the as-built
Prior
service.
to a CO.
Yep,
Or certificate of compliance.
correct.
Okay, motion to approve this.
Motion.
Motion by Phil, second by Gloria, all in favor.
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions, 7 in favor. Anthony, are you back?
I'm here.
Oh, there you are, right. Camp Jerome, ZBA
Okay.
Pearl.
Camp Jerome. All right. So let me just zoom in here. Okay, so back in May of 2019, we received a pre-application for this property in Quayog. It's at the corner of Main Street and Alden Lane. It's on, I believe it's on Quantuck Creek. It's got multiple structures on there, a single-family residence, 2 cottages, several barns, 3 residences altogether, but several other accessory structures, barns, a tennis court, swimming pool. As far as I could tell, everything's actually CO'd on the property. And of course, the wetlands associated with Quantuck Creek. Right at the corner of Main Street and Alden Lane, there's, and I haven't been out there since they first submitted the application, but there was a horse pasture out there, really nice. We received a pre-application back in 2019 for a 4-lot subdivision. Basically, it was 2 lots, 1 lot down here, and then the 4th lot was going to incorporate all the existing structures. At that time, we deemed the application incomplete. Most notably, it was missing a yield map because the yield map's important in this piece, given the number of existing residences, plus what could be accomplished outside of that. Plus, they didn't submit a cluster plan. We may want a cluster plan in this case, given the existence of the horse pasture, the size of the property. It may warrant a cluster here, but we never really got that far. And then there were some mapping items. So we deemed the application incomplete. At that time, one of the items that we had mentioned, in addition to what they were missing, was that, absent doing a cluster plan, there really was no way for the planning board by themselves to approve a subdivision with a lot with 3 single-family residences on there. There may be some provisions in the code that you could address multifamily, but as far as we could tell, there was no way to do it. So the application was deemed incomplete. We advised the applicant for the reasons, and we raised the question about having 3 residences on 1 lot. The applicant never came back to us, with a completed application. But they have subsequently submitted a request to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and that was referred to this board for comment. They basically applied to the Zoning Board of Appeals, essentially asking for a determination that 3 existing dwellings, the principal residence and the 2 cottages, can be maintained on a single property, which is lot 4 in the subdivision. In the alternative, the applicant asked for relief from that section of the code to maintain 3 existing dwellings on that property. So that's what they're before the Zoning Board of Appeals for, and they came here for our comments. So basically, as I just described to you, this is a description of the property, where it's located, what they applied for. It talks about the reasons why we deemed the application incomplete, because it was missing a yield map, a cluster plan, and the issue with multiple residences on a single lot. This explains what the applicant has applied for to the zoning board for determination that they can in fact have that. And then my comments are the planning board's comments. Basically what it says here, and I'll just read it, the planning board recommends the ZBA postpone making any determinations on the subject application until the planning board adopts a pre-application report on the pending subdivision application, as said report will identify certain planning issues related to the variances being sought, such as the overall residential density, lot configuration, location of existing structures, open space preservation, chapter 325 wetland impacts, and further zoning district dimensional requirements. Typically, an adopted pre-application report can serve as the referral report to the Zoning Board of Appeals, as it reflects the planning board's recommendations, concerns, and design preferences, which are based on an analysis of the subdivision layout and relevant data, including but not limited to comments and recommendations from internal referrals and interested county and state agencies. Until such time as the planning board has received a complete pre-application and reviewed and completed said analysis, the planning board cannot provide substantive comments on this application. You know, at the end of the day, you have a lot of wetlands, you have a lot of existing structures, we have the horse pasture. We never got to the point where we spoke about whether we want a cluster. We didn't see a cluster plan. So it seems to me that before the zoning board take up the issue, is that we should just do the pre-application report so that we identify all the issues. And then the zoning board can proceed from there. So that's sort of how I worded it. The conservation board made a similar recommendation as the application was referred to them as well. And they've also recommended that the ZBA postpone making any determinations until the planning board has had a careful look at the subdivision.
I mean, you certainly don't want to increase density in this area, you know.
No, and I think that the applicant would argue that given the size of the property, even with 3 existing residences, that there's no question about the density. But the reality is that, you know, given the configuration, you know, wetland setbacks, existing structures, you're right, Dennis, I think just a yield map, so we know exactly what the overall density is and what we could accomplish if we needed to through a cluster plan. And whether or not they would even need to go to the zoning board. If it was a cluster plan, we may be able to, you know, put multiple residences on a lot. I don't know the answer to that, but that's something that we could consider. But until we do the analysis, we just don't know.
Anthony, I think that's a very well thought out report. I agree with what you've.
Yeah, it's good. Has the ZBA ever issued a variance for 3 residences on 1 lot?
I don't know, actually. I just, like I said, I've got to do, you know, some more research, but I don't know, actually. I think it's a good question.
Existing situations, especially when it involved the preservation of part of the tract.
Yeah, yeah.
So
We don't have that here, right? We have no preservation.
that's not what we're facing here.
No.
We might be facing a density increase.
Density increase, right.
Careful. You want to put that first line or 2 in bold, Anthony?
Sure.
Yeah, in case they don't read the whole thing.
I sure will.
I mean, it's very long. It's the whole paragraph.
Yeah, you're right. I could do that.
Maybe red with
Bold and
We'll make sure it's properly bolded so they see it.
With your blood.
Exactly.
So motion to adopt this report?
Can I respond? Can I have a couple comments on this? We usually allow the
Oh,
app-
sorry. Yeah, I didn't see you down there.
That's okay. Is that okay? Can I speak?
Yeah.
I talk about forest for the trees. This is a 1 acre zone with a potential yield. There is an old yield map floating around somewhere of 10 lots. I want to have 4 lots here until, and again, I don't need to be referred to myself, but when I was the town lawyer, my position always was if you could leave multiple residences on a lot that was not an increase in the degree of nonconformity as long as you weren't changing density. So it's a 1 acre zone, even taking out this maybe a little bit less than half an acre, about a half acre wetlands, because we all know that comes out of the yield. We have a 5.8 acre lot, which is 6 lots in the 1 acre zone. I want to do a 4 lot subdivision. Where is the forest for the trees here? What are we missing here? So my position as a town lawyer always was, if you're not increasing the density, you can have the multiple residences on 1 lot and calve off other lots as long as you leave the appropriate density. Here, it's almost double the density. What I'm trying to do here is hope that someone, and I take a ride down there. It's like an old world, remainder of an old world piece. It's an old estate with some cottages on it. I'm hoping that someone will buy this 5.8 acre lot and keep it the way it is. So I'd like some help in trying to do that. Otherwise, we come in with a regular full yield plan, which would be another 5 or 6 lots. I don't know how in God's name you would ever justify a cluster on this. There's no contiguous open space. Look at the aerial. It's in a 1 acre zone. It's not in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District. It's not in the Ag Overlay District. You know, please let me finish. So, you know, when I was the town lawyer, we would issue these things as determinations. So I asked the Zoning Board of Appeals for a determination. that these could remain on this lot. The only thing you do in a subdivision plan, presumably, because I think a cluster would be arbitrary and capricious, would move around some of these lot lines on lots 1, 2, and 3, which themselves, lot 3, it's a 1 acre zone. It's a 3.4 acre lot. Lot 1, it's a 1 acre zone. It's a 54,000 square feet lot. It's like, I'm happy someone isn't buying this and going in with a maxed out yield plan, because if you look at the surrounding area, the lots would be, it would be very consistent with the lots in the area. So this is the sort of thing where I sort of pull back and say, gee, where's the thank you for coming in with a 4-lot plan? Okay, and by the way, I'm not asking the Zoning Board of Appeals to subdivide anything. I don't need any variances relief to create any of these lots. Where's all that in the report? Where's the fact that there is no contiguous open space, then the cluster would be inappropriate? All of that stuff. Where are the planning concerns? I'm just asking, I'm not trying to foreclose any of the planning concerns. If I want to create these lots 1, 2, and 3, and 4, we're gonna have to come in and talk to you about it. That's clear. I just want to be able to clear the way so that we can have this mega lot on the property and keep what is a compound with the hope, God willing, that somebody buys it that way.
It was a yield map. I think that's.
Yeah, that's what we're asking for.
Apparent with a yield map that he had asked for in the pre-app report, and we're asking for now. We still haven't seen it.
Why don't you waive a cluster map? It's absurd to ask for a cluster map down here. Look
How about a yield map?
What?
How
No,
about a yield map?
let's don't talk about a cluster map. I'll have Squires put out a yield map in no time. I think there's one kicking around at 10 or 11 lots, even with taking out the wetlands, which you have to from the yield. But I think, what do you need a cluster map for? A cluster would be absurd here. There's no rationale. There's no way to buttress a cluster here. Look just, if Anthony, if you have, oh, thank you. You have the aerial up on, not in the Aquifer Protection Overlay District, not in the Ag Overlay District, no contiguous open space. I mean, obviously the wetlands line is shown right on the property. We've even drawn the setbacks for, the buffers and the septic system and all that stuff. I'm trying to do something here that will preserve, the town doesn't have historic preservation laws with any sort of teeth. This is an old East End, charming, estate house. My hope is that somebody will buy it on this big 4-acre lot. Help me out.
Well,
you don't have to be a surveyor to see that the yield is.
No, John, we hear your arguments, and they're well said, well spoken. But I also think that that we need to proceed in terms of a ZBA referral, looking and reviewing what we need to have.
Yeah, but it's a rifle shot before the ZBA. I'm not asking for any relief. I'm asking for a determination that I can leave those 3 homes on this 1 mega lot. I'm also not saying that you couldn't, if you found that this lot number 4 had to be, rejiggered or something like that, you could retain the power to do that. I'm not going to give you this subdivision as a fait accompli. I mean, I think it's pretty darn good, but there may be other covenants and restrictions that you want to impose. You want to look at the wetlands aspect. I'm not trying to foreclose any of that. It's a very, 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 very limited application to the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Well, we have to make a referral. So
I know, but
that's the way you argue for it.
Maybe take the stuff out about cluster and all that stuff. That doesn't belong.
Well, we'll take out cluster, but we certainly need the yield and all the other information.
Okay, I'm going to ask them to make a determination, but they'll either take what you're saying into consideration or not.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, and so Anthony, we'll take out cluster, but we'll leave everything else.
Okay.
Okay, do I have a motion to adopt this ZBA report?
Motion.
Dennis, motion by Dennis, second by Gloria, all in favor. Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor. Thank you. Claire, we're moving on to you, number 18, the GAB properties.
Yeah, it's a John Bennett show today.
I think you did this already, didn't you?
We did the report. We didn't make it a ZBA report because we didn't exactly know what you were going to go for the variances for.
Okay.
So just a summary of the
But
response.
you made recommendations regarding the zoning board of appeals application in your staff report, so I'm sort of scratching my head. Seems to
Yeah,
be-
but I didn't adopt it as both because I didn't know exactly what you were gonna go for the variances for because of the parking. Do you remember the parking was like back and forth, John?
Okay.
Do we have a map?
I have a map. Here's the aerial. Sorry, it's sideways. And this is the plan, and it shows the parking in the back, if you remember. It's a cross access, and they've removed the front area for the display. So I just wanted to summarize. These are your comments. I've just pulled them out.
Can you identify for the board what this is?
Yeah, so this is JAB. This is an existing car dealership, and they would like to expand the car dealership.
It's the Lexus in Southampton.
Yes, the Lexus in Southampton, exactly. So the variances are the size of the building greater than 15,000 square feet. I think it's about 17,000 now, and it's going to go up to 22,834, as noted. And then the parking variance, sorry, I'll look back. Parking variance for the additional building and outdoor storage of vehicles, 18 parking spaces. So the comments in the original pre-submission was the notes expansion of 22,834 square feet is 32.8% in relation to the size of the building.
Right. And well, isn't this also a 15,000 square foot area, highway business?
Yes, so that's why the variance is to increase, right? Right now it's about 17 and change. They're going to the 22,834. That's still above and beyond this 15,000 square feet.
Right, it's like the Mercedes was 15,000 and they went up, Dennis, remember they went up to 22. And we opposed that at the time.
No, you didn't.
We did.
Okay.
So I don't know, Candace was going to do a referral for SECRA, but I don't know if I have it in my hands. But did you want to say request lead agency or not, like request lead agency, the board?
Yeah, we would want lead agency.
Okay. And then did you want me to say anything else? These are from, as I said, these are from your report themselves. Did you want to say anything else in terms of the conclusion?
Well, I'd mentioned the 15,000, you mentioned that, yeah, down below the request.
Well, I think, yeah, and this helps with that, so.
Yeah, what is it? What is the 15,000? What is it, 330?
105.
I would put that in.
I can refer to it. I'll add it. Did you want to have any conclusions with the planning board?
Holding to the 15,000 square foot, I know that. I know John's saying that
we had this conversation already. We had this conversation already on your referral. It's like
we had this conversation certainly on the Mercedes property.
No, we had the conversation in.
And you got your variance anyway.
No, we had the conversation on your referral back in May, and you said all you were going to do is no. It's literally like one of those games where I smack something down and then it pops up. Will you just please be consistent? We had the conversation, and you said you really wouldn't take. You'll just note that those are the variances that have been requested because most of the variances are just putting walls around already existing roofed areas, and they were consistent with other variances that have been granted in the town. And it's for the convenience of primarily for the convenience of the people who are dropping off and picking up cars there. And as the 4 or 5 ZBA applications that have decided the similar matters, have said these 15,000 square feet limitations were specifically meant to stop big box stores in the town. so that you wouldn't have to deal with a Costco or a BJ's or whatever, or the Trader, whatever it is in the town, and that ZBA has all made those determinations. You don't have anywhere near the type of traffic generations because people don't buy automobiles with the same amount of frequency as they go to Costco's to buy bulk towels. I don't know. But we already had this discussion when you did your pre-submission conference report, and you said all you were going to do was note the variances that were requested.
Why is this before us now then?
I don't know.
It was not adopted as both a ZBA report because I did not know, John, what your variances were going to be.
That's simply not the case. It says right here, I'm reading from your staff report. The ZBA will need to grant variances for the size of the building greater than 15,000, increasing to a total of 22,834. What did you not know? The planning board notes this expansion is 32.8 in relation to the size of the building, period. That's what you said. You had no.
But the point, I explained the parking, John. I explained. You did not ask for the parking.
The ZBA will need to grant variances for parking, 18 parking spaces. That's paragraph 4. Why are we doing this today?
Because the planning board did not make any recommendations.
We already had the discussion, and you decided, all of the board, to say, we will note the variances that are necessary. You had in your original report some comments that were negative, and you agreed to take them out. You don't get 2 bites at the apple. And that's what you're trying to do, and it's offensive.
Let's calm down.
I have a copy of that resolution, and it says it's also a ZBA report.
Here, I'm looking at the resolution right here. What did you not know about the variances? 22,834, 18 parking spaces.
And it's labeled a ZBA referral.
Yeah, recommendations to the ZBA.
Yes. So what are we doing here?
We want to say you should really adhere to the zoning code.
I had this discussion with you before. You said you were merely going to note the type of variances that were necessary and leave it at that. What are we doing here? What are we doing here?
It was not a ZBA report.
So what?
That's a
Well,
fact.
you know, what we're doing here is having a confrontational discussion, which is not at all helpful. And I think, John, for your benefit and for our benefit, even though we may have had this discussion before, it would certainly help me to be refreshed on the discussion so we could make an intelligent decision.
All right. Can I tell you what the application is for then? As I did back, the application is to add, can you please get me the site plan for Lexus? The application is the 3 pods of expansion of this building. 2 of them are already roofed structures. So in terms of the mass and all of that stuff, you're not going to see any difference whatsoever. The same thing that the board, the Zoning Board of Appeals granted at the Mercedes place and one other place, which is what they've done in the past. It's not going to increase necessarily the size of how many cars can be sold there. It's primarily for modern car sales techniques and car service techniques where you try to keep the stuff out of the open air. That's what we're doing there. So 2 of these pods of expansion are already roofed area. And then in the back is another expanded area, which is just for service. That's all it is. Not going to be able to stuff more cars in here or anything like that. Not an attempt to increase the outdoor sales lot or anything like that. Nothing like that. And then in the back, we need some transitional yard relief, which when we first brought this application in, the then planning director said there shouldn't be a problem because you back up to a piece of ag open space. So where's the need for a transitional yard? So if you hear frustration in my voice, it's because we've had this discussion, and the discussion was also, they're going to the ZBA, let's just make this part of the referral. I don't know why we're back discussing this. When I looked at it, both my associate Bailey and I looked at it and said, what is this even on the agenda for? We had the discussion about the ZBA referral. we had the discussion. The planning board originally had some comments about it, and they decided to say, because of the history of these types of applications and their generally benign nature, to just note the variances that were necessary. And the zoning board of appeals, when we had the hearing before the ZBA, you can look at the tape, took note of your prior report.
When was that report, Claire?
May?
May 14th, 2020. I'm looking right at it.
Blair, do you have any visuals we could?
Oh, yes, sorry. I have to zoom in a little bit when I pull it up. Just one second. So this is the closures of these areas, right, John?
The southeast pod right there, that's enclosing an area that's already roofed, as with the one on the east. And then the only area, thank you, Claire, the only area that's going to be an actual brand, new roofed area is the back for some additional service. So, from the massing, from the passerby heading west on 39, if you go by the site, it's very nicely landscaped and everything. The only thing you're going to notice, you're probably not going to notice that pod in the back, the northeasterly one, and you'll see area that now has walls around it, but is already roofed. So it's not going to be a substantial at all addition to the massing of the property, and it's going to have to be something that you'll have the architectural review on. I remember when we first came in with the Mercedes, we did the very similar thing. You didn't like some of the fenestration, and we changed it.
What is the, I remember we had some discussion about circulation, larger trucks coming in, turning radiuses.
Yeah, that's all set up on the, Jackie, that's all set up on the additional site plan. There was an actual a template with a turning radius. It's not shown on this plan. I will tell you, and I take note of this. I take very good note of this. I have not seen those very disturbing, sitting in the middle of the road, evening and nighttime deliveries on any of John Burns's properties, which is the Mercedes and the Lexus. I could be wrong. I just haven't seen it. I've seen them further down the road, and I know everyone's concerned about that because someone's going to smack into one of those trucks some night, but I have not seen it because these are more modern site plans that you guys have looked at that and required that sort of stuff to go on. So I don't know. And again, if somebody has seen Lexus unloading in the middle of the night or to the late evening in the middle of the street, or Mercedes, please correct me. I've taken a note of it. I've driven by the other dealerships and seen that happening and said to myself, well, as much as I carp sometimes about certain elements of site plan review, the board did a good job on those two, and I was actually quite happy about it.
The two buildings that are roofed, Claire,
Well, part of the building. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
The south east and the one right behind it, were they ever in front of us?
Oh gosh, yes, it's part of,
yes, they were.
Yeah.
So the new addition is behind that.
Yes, it's behind those. I look at it as two pods of additions. The one on the southeast, and then the one above it to the right, as it were, as Claire is displaying it, which is in the middle. Those two, they're technically, since we're putting, walls on them and increasing the size of the building, but from a mass point of view and a use point of view, I mean, you could make the argument actually, but didn't think it was necessary. There's a case, there's a case in Flanders that was before the Zoning Board of Appeals. And the Zoning Board of Appeals said it was this We Got It Auto Parts, and the guy wanted a big building, and all the stuff that he was putting in the building was happening outside. And the Zoning Board of Appeals made the finding that if all you're doing is housing an area of exterior use, and in this case it's roofed, that's not an increase of the degree of nonconformity. It's a little bit different because those are pre-existing nonconforming uses.
Yes.
So I didn't really know that it fit. It's sort of more like an analogy. I mean,
Yeah.
this is these are conforming uses.
Okay, can we get back now to what we're trying to do here, which is a ZBA referral?
Very simply, you just want to fill in that sentence in the front.
Right.
Or not. You can eliminate that first part. It's up to you.
All right, how does the rest of the board feel in terms of that? What do we want to say?
Back up, Claire, please, so we could see
Yeah,
it.
yeah, give us
Sure. Yeah, hold on a second.
So the question is here, do we want to make the planning board fun? Do we want to talk about chapter 330, 125, that's highway businesses maxed out is 15,000 square feet. This is a 32.8% increase that's spelled out. What is it that we want to say in that first sentence?
I think it's a fact. I think it's a fact. It's not an opinion. It's a fact. It's an increase. And
We're just stating the fact.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it might be helpful to state that the 15,000 threshold is increasingly being exceeded in the case of car dealerships, and the legislative board may want to revisit that provision of the code to revise their legislative intent if that were in fact the case, because they could have carved out exceptions, but it's increasingly exceeded with car dealerships. Maybe there's something about the nature of car dealerships that may accommodate larger buildings, but that's more a legislative issue. Right now, every one of these things is being bound to the ZBA and then back to us.
Right. I think.
Are there any other than Mercedes or this one now? Was there another one? I'm trying to remember. I think I've handled both.
They'll be coming in.
I don't know what the Audi, do you call the Audi, Claire, in the watermill?
Oh, 15.
15.
14,999.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then the other one, the one that used to be BMW is already over. It's already over that.
Yeah.
The Mini, I mean, it's like 20,000 or something like that.
I think it's close.
Well, that's the thing. They start out at 15 or a little bit above, and then it's.
No, those are pre-existing, Dennis.
But I'm not arguing with you, but you know, the town board should revisit the legislation, clarify the legislative. If that's their intent, they should carve out that exception and codify.
I like that language. And I think that should be the first sentence. Claire, did you get that?
I did.
Hmm.
Okay.
So what is it going to say?
The planning board finds that the 15,000 square feet is increasingly being exceeded by car dealerships. Town board may want to consider amendments to the legislation to consider.
It.
Does it concern you?
Box stores or something to that.
It's not gonna prejudice your case.
No, but for all the other applications, John, you come in with, it will.
Clarify the legislative history. You want to put that in there?
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good place.
I don't know if the town board will ever get that, but maybe. Okay.
For whatever it's worth, just from a historical point of view, I over the years have spoken to the town board members about that, and they've all said, you know, we'd really prefer to just leave it with the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Well.
Surprise.
Sort of an end about confronting it, you know?
Yeah.
So we're gonna adopt it before it. Any other comments?
Madam Chair, really quick before you vote, there's a Michael Shiano from InterScience is asking to be heard.
Oh, he's
Do you want to let him in? Or I know he's on the.
I'm sorry.
With John. I just don't want to not give him an
Michael.
opportunity.
Is he with John?
Michael, stop. You don't need to say anything, as much as I love you.
Let's
Okay,
let him speak, John.
No, we're
No,
fine.
John, no, it's at the option of the applicant. John, he's your applicant. He's your consultant.
Mike, I think we're fine.
Well, all right, okay. Yeah, it's up to.
Okay,
I want a
Mike,
power struggle here between.
Mike, you've had an opportunity to speak, so.
He's mute. Yeah.
Okay, so do I have a motion to accept this?
I'll
with
move
the
to
revision
adopt.
of the first sentence moved by Dennis, second by Zuccarelli. Okay, Claire.
Thank
got that?
you.
Great.
All in favor, vote.
Oh, I'm sorry, Dennis
Second.
moved it, Zuccarelli seconded it, all in favor? Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor.
Claire,
Yes.
Claire, you and I need just at least once a year need a little dust up just for old times.
Just to keep him sharp.
Somebody's got to get me going.
I like it better in person.
Anthony is the next one. And
Yep.
You're the caffeine for Claire's.
This is also John Bennett. So,
Right, this is Dockers, right?
yep, this is Dockers. So, everyone's familiar here with the Dockers site, the restaurant there. They're currently before, this is on Dune Road. It's zoned R80. You got the residential development to the south, including this multifamily down here. The restaurant here, and as you can see from the aerial photograph on the north side there, is surrounded by wetlands and a whole surface water network, as you can see. The application is before the Zoning Board of Appeals for a change from one non-conforming use, the restaurant marina, to a condominium development with 25 condo units. The application was classified as a type 1 action, and the zoning board coordinated with all involved agencies, including the planning board. The planning board requested to be lead agency, I believe in July. We sent it over to the zoning board. The zoning board relinquished the lead agency to the planning board. We established the board as the lead agency. And now we're at the point where we need to make a secret determination on the change of zone application. I have forwarded to you, the applicant submitted the part 1, and we complete, as you can see here, the part 2, where we normally go through impacts on land, impacts on the various items. What I did was, given the, the complex nature of the application, they don't give you a lot of room here to expand on the impacts. So I prepared a draft. Essentially, this is a part 2, an addendum to the part 2. So I got to reword my title here, but that's not important for this conversation. So I prepared an analysis of the potential impacts associated with this project, and I'd like to go through the part 2 here with you now. Right here on the first page is just a description of the property. Again, the application for the change of zone. It's a 8.61 acre property. It's R80. As you can see, obviously on Dune Road, it's vacant largely on the north side there, with single family resident on the south side. It fronts on Shinnecock Bay, which is part of the larger Long Island South Shore Estuary Reserve. The water quality in this area has been relatively poor and documented as such. And as a result, it's in the high priority water quality improvement zone. Approximately half the property is encumbered by wetlands, which is part of a much larger interconnected system of regulated tidal wetlands that you were able to see on the aerial. The property is also located in the FEMA flood zones, VE elevation 10, AE elevation 11, and AE elevation 12, as well as in the Limwa area, and the proposed development will be situated within elevation 12 and will need to conform to those requirements. The planning board reviewed the application submitted by the applicant, the full EAF form, a project narrative submitted by the applicant, a memo prepared by the conservation board on their referral, and then all of the plans that were submitted to the zoning board for the application. And based on that combination of information, it was reviewed and identified potential significant impacts. The first one involves impacts on land. The first bullet point talks about the property being a barrier island. Again, as you could see from the aerial, the surface water conditions are quite evident. And it's basically a barrier island between Shinnecock and the Atlantic. And the site contains significant wetlands with a very shallow depth to groundwater based on 2016 limited test hole data that they provided. Basically, the overall underlying goal of the state and the town is to retreat development from these areas to the maximal extent possible, as the areas are subject to major storm and coastal flooding. It's in the New York State slosh zone, which is basically the hurricane storm surge inundation area, and that project needs to incorporate information on future storm resiliency in order to evaluate this project. The second bullet point talks about the reduction in the footprint per the application from 2.2 acres to 1.5. However, it still requires a SWIP plan, being that the disturbance is over an acre in size, and given the environmental conditions, obviously this is a concern. The other bullet point in this is the project may have significant impacts on land through the establishment of a precedent by which commercial uses are converted to residential uses at a scale and a density that may not make sense given a specific site. In this case, this site happens to contain very sensitive environmental conditions. The applicant has not submitted any information as it pertains to construction details and timing. So SECRA accounts for construction time that takes more than a year. Could have impacts on ongoing traffic issues, use of heavy equipment, damage to the roadway, which happens a lot during long-term construction, noise levels, stockpiling materials, visual impacts over the long term associated with that. So that was identified. And then on the north side of Dune Road, it's predominantly preserved by public and conservation entities. The restaurant is a one-story improvement on the site and is going to be replaced with 2 stories that are elevated to meet FEMA requirements. And this is, contrast to the overall land use pattern on the north side of Dune Road there. So that was a potential significant impact. And then we move on to impacts to surface waters. This is, a pretty major concern. Planning board finds the intensity of the proposed development may have potentially significant impacts to surface waters, given the extensive nature of the tidal wetlands that extend well beyond the boundaries of the subject site, combined with the fact that the property is prone to flooding during storms and ocean breakthroughs during extreme storms, such as nor'easters and hurricanes. Specifically, the development of 25 units on a non-acre property, which is half of which is encumbered by wetlands, is too much potentially, and the applicant has not demonstrated overall compliance with Chapter 325 of the Town Code. The second bullet point, as it relates to surface waters, pertains to climate change. The sea level is expected to rise 1 to 2 feet over the next 20 to 50 years. The intensity of storms are increasing. And a major concern is that with a significant flooding event or a significant storm event, could overwhelm stormwater management and sewage disposal systems. The application includes sewage treatment plants to accommodate 25 units. They have a yield of maybe 2 for the town, and obviously exceed for the health department their density requirements, therefore necessitating the need for a sewage treatment facility. The concern about potential flooding and what happens to that system if it becomes overwhelmed or it fails. It could basically direct stormwater and sewage directly into the surface waters surrounding the property, which is obviously a potential significant impact. And any increase on an already impaired water body needs to be properly analyzed. The site plan calls for the construction of dwelling units to be set back 70 feet, dwelling units and a swimming pool to be set back 75 feet and 50 feet from the wetlands respectively. This doesn't conform to the minimum requirements of the code, and therefore is a concern of the potential impacts it has on the adjacent wetlands. Also, the potential for dewatering. The test hole data was prepared in 2016. I forgot how many test holes were done or where they were specifically located, but it was a far cry from a full-blown hydrogeologic analysis, which I think is warranted in this area. If dewatering is necessary, there's always potential impacts associated with that. Geotechnical impacts, i.e. Constructability impacts. The dewatering potentially causes resettlement of the soils and earth underneath, which could have structural implications. Impacts on water-dependent features and water resources as a result of dewatering. And without the proper test hole analysis, we identified this as a potential impact. And in this area, as the groundwater potentially rises naturally as the environment changes, the test hole data needs to properly reflect, those potential changes. Then we move on to impacts to groundwater. Again, the project relies on outdated baseline groundwater data as the test holes were completed in 2016. Based on data from the Brookhaven National Lab, this data was collected during a drought-like conditions, which persisted for nearly a decade. Again, as environmental conditions change and the depth of groundwater changes and the flooding potential changes, we need full-blown test hole analysis in order to make a determination as whether the project is safe for the environment. In such close proximity to the regulated wetlands, we would need the test hole data to be accurate to reflect the conditions that are out there. Another point is the planning board is concerned with the stormwater overflow drainage swale 5 feet from the wetlands. This is significant excavation and regrading right adjacent to regulated tidal wetlands, and this could obviously have a direct impact to the impacts of surface and groundwater. Again, the drainage swale is less than 2 feet from the groundwater table based on the test hole data that was provided in 2016. So this is an issue. The applicant has not demonstrated that the sewage treatment plant will comply with the 2-foot separation to the groundwater table. So they're going to need to provide that analysis. Again, the issue relating to the water table, and that in a major storm event, if the system fails, the sewage system fails, that would have an impact on groundwater in addition to the surface water. So that's a major issue. Impacts on flooding. The site plan fails to acknowledge the potential vulnerability of the site to flooding. It's not enough to simply say that the development is going to be FEMA compliant. If this was a single family residence and they were saying it's going to be FEMA compliant, that's one thing. But this type of project with 25 units on an area of property that's surrounded by major wetlands, half of which the subject property is encumbered by, proper analysis of the conditions, whether or not this project will have further impacts on flooding, are warranted. The applicant has not provided a detailed analysis of how the proposed project will accommodate drainage capacity and whether or not the sewage treatment will be designed as to not be impacted by the groundwater levels, daily high tides, and storm events. So again, that needs to be analyzed, and it all pertains to the depth, the shallow depth of groundwater and the potential impacts associated with major storms. Impacts on plants and animals. The applicants submitted some information. Based on the information submitted by the applicant, significant natural communities have been documented at the project site or in its vicinity, and that's based on a letter that came from the New York State Natural Heritage Program, and that includes low salt marsh, marine back barrier lagoon, and marine eelgrass meadow. The New York State Natural Heritage Program also identified the common tern, the least tern, and the piping plover as documented endangered species at or in the vicinity of the project site. Impacts on open space and recreational areas. The subject redevelopment is on Dune Road in Hampton Bays, which is classified as a scenic road in the 1999 comprehensive plan. So that means the town's obviously, found that it had, significant features that warrant its inclusion as a scenic road. It runs for the entirety of the barrier island from Shinnecock Inlet all the way to Moriches Inlet. And the view sheds that people enjoy, even with the restaurant there, could potentially be impacted, or the overall aesthetic resource associated with Dune Road could be impacted with 25 units on an extremely exposed property surrounded by little to no vegetation, elevated on piles, could absolutely have an impact on aesthetic resources. And again, this just points out to the visual impacts associated with two-story residential condominium developments, which is not surrounded by any other development. And we basically want an analysis, a viewshed analysis from all vantage points. So, we talk about the visual impacts from north of Shinnecock Bay as well, and that a full visual assessment and renderings would be warranted in this case. Impacts on transportation. The addition of 25 condominium units will add vehicular trips to the subject property on a year-round basis. Again, we know of existing conditions with the restaurant and the traffic associated with this. However, this is a new project. This is a change in non-conforming use. This is not an as-of-right development. It's 25 units in an area where the yield would be 2. And they could be year-round residents. We've had this discussion before. The planning board can't mandate summer residency for units like this, so there could be some potential impacts associated with traffic. Impacts on human health, again, concerns about the sewage treatment facility failing during a storm event with effluent entering the waterways, which can impact, obviously, human and animal health. And again, something that we probably didn't do so much, 20 years ago, but, with climate change and the nature of storms changing, evacuation routes from, flood-prone areas like Dune Road need to be evaluated as we add more residences to these areas. The question about how we get people out safely needs to be evaluated. Impacts on community plans. The project is not consistent with the Coastal Resources and Water Protection Plan, as the overall goal is to enhance water-dependent uses and to minimize or avoid potential adverse land use and environmental and economic impacts that would result from proposed development. This is an increase in density that far exceeds what is permitted under the zoning code. On a very environmentally sensitive piece of property surrounded by wetlands. The project will result in a loss of a water-dependent use. I know it's a private restaurant and not a public waterfront access, but even with the restaurant, the public did have some access to the waterfront with the marina there. So that's a potential issue, and no practical alternatives have been presented. The project is not consistent with the town's affordable housing requirement. The applicant has not indicated how the project will conform to the affordable housing requirement, and absent addressing this issue, it's in direct conflict with both the state-adopted Long Island Workforce Housing Act and Town Code Section 216-9, which codified the affordable housing requirement as mandated by the state. The other side of it is one of the underlying goals in the town is to bring non-conforming properties into compliance with the town code to the maximum extent possible. It is not clear how 25 units was deemed appropriate for the site, given the need for an STP in order to accommodate the density per the health department. And again, with nearly half the property encumbered by wetlands, it would seem that the yield in this R80 zone property would be 2 lots, which is significantly less than the 25 units they're proposing. Impacts on visual impacts and community character. The applicant has not submitted any information regarding visual impacts or have elevations been provided. So insufficient information has basically been provided. Again, without knowing all the information, there's even a question of whether or not these could be considered 3-story buildings. Once you are, and I don't know exactly, but once incorporating the requirements of the FEMA flood zone, it could make the buildings 3 stories based on the requirements of the code. But again, the information wasn't submitted, so we don't really know. And the visibility from Dune Road. Again, even with the restaurant there's a lot of views that people enjoy, and the potential of 25 elevated condominium units and associated improvements could have a major impact, visual impact and community character. And then, of course, controversy. There may be a significant public controversy with this project, as normally anticipated. That's what I have so far. Wanted to get some feedback from the planning board. I'm sure the applicant has some comments they'd like to go through.
That is very good, very thorough.
An excellent report, Anthony.
Thank you. I had, I must just, so I could put it out there, Teresa Mason, her information from her memo was very helpful as it relates to wetlands. And I want to say that, and Jackie Fenlon too did a good read through for me, and as well. So I just wanted to state.
No, it was a village, not just you.
That's it.
Excellent, very thorough, very comprehensive. John, I know you sent a letter to the board.
Yeah, it's just 3 bullet points, if I may.
Yeah.
And I think for the protection of the applicant, no one's surprised at the positive declaration. We actually, I'm not gonna say we welcomed it, but we said we're not gonna put up any argument about it. I think it would, it's better to have this stuff all fully studied. There were just 3 points that I noted that I thought, and again, I suppose we could always work this out in scoping, but I think I just didn't want them to go unstated. This might have been a prior report, but there was, or maybe you just read it, there's something about a traffic increase, which really made me sort of scratch my head. If there's anything that's clearly without argument going to decrease here, it'd be traffic. I spoke to Larry Hoffman. During the summer, between 5,000 and 7,000 people per week in the summertime come to the restaurant. A single family residence under the ITT trip generation manuals, there's 2 in, 1 out and 1 in the morning, 1 out and 1 in at night. So a typical single family residence, and of course they can differ, generates 4 trips a day. So I think even without, I mean, we're going to study traffic obviously, but even I don't think it's fair to come to the conclusion that there will be an increase in traffic. Just, anecdotally, there would be a decrease in traffic.
Except that it's year round, potentially year round. And I think that's really where Anthony was going, that it may be less on any given day, but it's going to be potentially 365 days. And the comments about Dune Road flooding, when you've got people living there full time, is that, to me, that's environmental, but it's also kind of a traffic issue. How are they going to get out of there when the road's closed like it was yesterday?
Well, this is something that I'm glad you brought that up, because there are people more and more live down there year round, number one. And number two, the town of Southampton under the highway law has an undelegable duty to make sure those roads are passable. But I think that's probably a broader discussion.
Yeah, I mean, I think we have an opportunity here to potentially retreat a little bit, or hopefully a lot, rather than try to build. Well, today in 2020, we know we shouldn't really be building here. And that's my personal opinion, because I'm very focused on this kind of stuff.
Again, the other one that I thought it was unfair was the neighborhood is clearly not characterized by 1-story homes. Round Dune, I think, has some. I think there might actually be close to 80 units over there. It's a multi-story home, and that's right across the street. And most of the building in the last 30 years has been FEMA elevated, which is good, 2-story homes. So, but and then finally, the existing non-conforming but nevertheless grandfathered wastewater system down there. And that's really the focus of a lot of the benefits of this project is a conventional wastewater system located close to a zero setback from the wetlands at grade.
Well, I
So-
think Anthony's report.
Well, let me just finish. If there was going to be any flooding down there, you would hope that someone would have the system that's proposed, which has some elevation and some setback requirements and everything like that. But, you know, these are things I wanted to bring to the board's attention. It's going to be Pod's deck to look at all this stuff. And, you know, I really don't have much else to say.
What's our next step, Anthony? Scoping?
Okay, so just to give you a little, and I have the resolution for the board to issue the positive declaration. Then the applicant will prepare a draft scope and submit it to us. The board has, and Claire, I have Claire here because she could clarify for me. You know, we have to refer to all the involved agencies. We have to make it available for review. But once a draft scope is submitted, the planning board has 60 days to, am I correct, Claire? 60 days to adopt an actual scope. That includes scheduling and hearing, having a hearing, amending it, and so forth. So, you know, that's where, you know, sort of where we are at the time frames. Once we adopt this.
Isn't a scoping hearing as opposed to a hearing on the DEIS optional?
But there's a public component, John, and yes, you know, public participation, right? I think that's the word.
Yeah, I know.
To date, the planning board has always had a hearing. And we provide a very tight comment period after the hearing, but there's always a hearing on public scopes since I've been here.
And scopes are made available, right, to the public?
Yes.
Online, the scope will go online, yeah.
Yep,
Even for the zoning board of appeals hearing, no one appeared.
Good.
No one appeared.
Good.
So you might want to take that into consideration.
But
Typically,
it's COVID time, John, so people are hesitant.
oh, well,
That's the reality we're living with.
I respectfully disagree that would stop anyone from appearing at a public hearing that is available for everybody. So
There's a lot of comment on the pre-submission conference.
Yep. So we passed this today. The applicant has to submit a scope within 30 days?
No.
No, when they do it, yeah.
The time, okay. But once we get it, we have 60 days to make it available to the public, to make changes, incorporate those comments in the scope.
Yep.
Okay, I got it.
Adopt a scope, or his scope is the one that is adopted. We don't meet the 60 days.
Got it.
But we normally would have a public hearing as part of that 60-day process.
Yes, yes.
We do.
Absolutely.
The scoping, a scope in and of itself is required now under secret for a POSDEC that's going to require an environmental impact statement. So that's automatic. They have to do a scope now. You know, we always have a hearing on the scope, which is what I would recommend. And then once the scope is adopted, everything will be back in the hands of the applicant to go ahead and prepare a draft environmental impact statement. And then we could talk about, you know, timeframes when we get there. You know, I suspect the applicant's going to submit a scope pretty quickly. I'm probably going to put this on our next agenda to discuss hiring a consultant to do the secret part of this, because, you know, we could do that. So I want to have that discussion with the board also.
So the scope that they prepare is in relationship to this draft report, right?
Yeah.
They respond to this.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and SECRA, you know, has specific guidelines and objectives that an applicant has to follow for the preparation of a scope and for the preparation of an environmental impact statement.
Great. Okay, so John, you're finished. We are ready to take a vote on this to adopt it. Again, Anthony, really good job.
Good, thank you, appreciate it.
So do I have a motion here to accept this? Motion by Zuccarelli, second by Robin. All in favor? Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor.
John.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, John.
Thanks,
See you, John.
Saying hello to John Blaney. I didn't see him before.
He's right there.
Right on your left.
Hello, John. Nice
Like
to
Hollywood
meet you.
Squares, everyone's like pops up.
Everybody keeps moving. Okay, we have Claire, is this you?
Yeah, I'll just explain this briefly. During COVID, we did a couple administratives. These are in order. We changed the use on the Carvel, the Russo, Rana, Cardi, Carvel. This is where that boat dealership is on the corner of County Road 39 and Tuckahoe Road, if you know what that is. So that change of use required a couple more parking spaces just designated, and we reviewed that administratively. So there wasn't much changes. Some landscaping is going to happen when they do change it, but it's
That's that building that put that second story on it.
Yes.
We still don't know what it is.
Well, it was for the cell towers.
Oh, okay.
Cell service. I'm sorry, it's not a tower, but cell service. And that is going to be modified prior to they get any CO on this too. So that was part of that review, just so you know.
Claire, and I mean, a Carvel, their lighting and signage issues, has all that been looked at?
Well,
They can just move in now, or?
Oh yeah, but they have to meet the sign code, and yeah, they're gonna have to be.
Lighting and all that?
Yeah, they can't be doing anything that would be outside your site plan that you had before prior. There was a prior site plan on this, so they'd have to follow that. And of course, they'd have to follow the existing codes, like, we'll watch them.
Traffic is a whole lot different from a boat dealership and Carvel. That, I mean, I have to go to the bank, Suffolk Federal, and I take my life in my hands trying to get there.
Yeah.
A little bit further west.
I think it generated one more parking space or whatever it was. Whatever it was, it met their criteria and they had them. So
yeah,
not so much the parking space as it is traffic in and out.
Yeah,
it's an in and out business.
Right.
And that's, I mean, that Tuckahoe Road, that corner, I almost got killed.
Lori, I would go around the loop. I would really soon go by the college.
Yeah. When I go to the bank, I go Millstone Brook Road and I go through the golf course, and then make the left onto County Road 39 to make the right into the but then if I go for gas,
don't try.
You know, it's.
We have to take these things into consideration. You know, this board is always reluctant for administrative reviews. You know that.
It's not up to you. It's in the. Sorry.
However,
that's it. You know.
However, I know.
But if you want to tell Janice there's a special situation with the project, you can always do that.
Very often we don't know until after the fact. But we've been confronted with administrative reviews, believe me. Oh, they're just doing some siding changes. And they take the whole building apart.
You can look at the
criteria. In Watermill.
Can I just back up for a second? We can only trust on what they submit the application for. And if they meet the criteria, which is in the code, then that's what we take face value on. And sometimes, you know, we come to you, Jackie, and ask you your opinion. The Bridgehampton Commons, we asked you your opinion on that one.
Okay, we like that.
Yeah, so that one's coming up. The second one, let me go to the second one.
Okay, go ahead. Okay.
Watermill Shops. This is to do a Tesla charging station in the back. So 9 of the parking spaces in the rear have Tesla charging stations. They cannot say only for charging. There's still parking spaces, but they have Tesla charging stations in the back of the sites. So I don't think a building permit's been issued yet on this, but it's coming.
It takes away, would there be sufficient regular parking if they?
No, it does not they can't say this is only for Tesla. They can never say that. This is just that they have an opportunity to put these charging stations and someone can pull up, charge, and then leave. But they can't say this is only for charging, never. So they're already parking spaces. As you see in the back of Watermill Shops, they do not have a parking problem there, so.
No.
And then Bridgehampton Commons, Jackie, we had spoken to you about this one. This was for the combination of the 2 entrances into one. So they will have TJ Maxx and Marshalls at the end of the day will have 1 entrance, and then they go to the 2 stores from the 1 entrance.
When I go into the shopping to go to King Cullen, I come in that back way, and it doesn't look like they're doing any work there. It seems to be kind of just all shut down.
Stop.
Don't know the activity level. Yeah, I haven't been in there with the activity level.
And I had a question about that water tower.
I'm not going to have an answer for you. We have to ask.
I mean, I
them.
don't know if anybody else
coming
had
back
any, but I remember specifically that they said they were taking the water tower down.
Yes, I do too.
You remember that?
Mm-hmm.
I know.
I don't know if it's functioning, what it functions for.
They'll be
So-
back in for master sign plan in the next month. So you
Okay,
can.
so they'll be on to that?
Yes.
If you speak to them, Claire, just let them know that I have that question.
I will, definitely. And the last one is Canal Properties. They did some modification. I think, as I see, it's the ADA lifts, some drainage changes, and trash enclosures and some landscaping that Janice and I reviewed. So.
Okay, so then we have signed plans. We have Mohawk Halsey acknowledging that.
Jackie, I'm sorry. This actually, I just noticed and reviewed the file. We do not have a conservation easement that has been accepted by the town board. We approved the conservation legal documents and the map is approved, but I'm going to hold off on signature of that until we have the town board acceptance of the conservation easement along the creek on the eastern side. So Lisa Poyer of InterScience has requested a 90-day extension, and that would take them from October 10th until January 8th so that we can set the town board hearing.
So it's not a signed plan, it's an extension now, a 90-day extension.
Yes.
Okay, so a motion to approve that.
Motion.
Come on, motion by Gloria and second by Dennis. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, 7 in favor.
That's it.
That's it. We don't have that cell tower, right, Claire?
No, that will be on for October 8th. The Homeland Watermill.
Okay, do we have an evening session on October 8th?
Yes.
We do.
We do. We actually got the links already, the Zoom links.
Yes.
But I was on that Zoom link for this, and then I realized.
I know, I saw it, I said, oh no.
Because I clicked on it, it wasn't going anywhere.
Well, there was also no agenda, so like three.
No, it was, exactly.
Good work.
Kathleen, any news on whether the governor's going to extend the virtual hearings into November?
Right now, the emergency order extends until October 4th, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens on the 4th.
They've been doing it month by month since May.
Yeah.
Correct, yeah.
Okay, so there's training tomorrow. Robin, if there's any material that I could download, I'll download it for you and Phil. I can't believe that it's filled.
Could I ask that the link be sent to me and let me just see if maybe now there's somebody canceled or something?
Yeah, right, that's a good thing. Can someone send that to
We
Robin?
don't have that. Can somebody forward to you? Because I don't have it, and I don't know if I can
Yeah,
get it.
Kathleen, do you have it?
Yeah.
No, I was never on that.
Maybe Kim could.
You can email Kim or Janet. I think it was from Kim or Janet, right?
What, the link?
Janet, yeah, from her.
I got the link this morning from,
Yeah, I did too. Well, they
Yeah.
Send us one.
But they're saying that you can't give that to somebody else.
You have to pre-register for this.
You have to pre-register, and that's how we got the link.
Maybe I'll give a call and see what I can do.
Yeah,
Worth a shot.
If you
absolutely.
find something, would you send it to me, Robin?
Yes, I will, Phil, I promise.
Thank you.
I mean, certainly the planning board should get first dibs, I think.
There's other planning boards out there too.
Yeah, but we're the planning board. Anything else? It's good to see everybody. Thanks again for everybody's getting so proficient with putting maps up and
yeah.
really great. And again, Anthony did a great job on that report. So
Yeah, he did. It's good.
It was a novel. That wasn't just a report. It was a novel.
Yeah.
needed it.
I think it was Cold War and Peace.
Okay, so what's our next meeting is October
8th.
October 8th, and training tomorrow. So we'll see everybody then.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everybody.
Close.
Close.
Adjourn.
Want to motion to adjourn?
Oh my God. Motion to adjourn by Dennis, second by Robin. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstentions? All in favor.